Reading Ballinger present.
Thank you. Commissioner Rooks,
Commissioner Rooks, present.
Commissioner Slater Harrington. And she'll likely be joining us this evening, so I ask that our board executive please mark them present as they come in this evening. Is there a motion to reopen the meeting?
Ames Messenger, so moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger. Is there a second?
No.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, all in favor? Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Ames Messenger, yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Atabey,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed, a second. Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
thank you. Welcome. Commissioner Reading Wallinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks,
Yes.
and I'm in favor. Any opposed? The motion passes. Would like to welcome once again, everybody, and we're going to turn to Commissioner Rooks for our moment of silence this evening.
Thank you. I would like to take a moment to recognize the passing of City Schools employee. This individual was committed to our students through his work. The Greater City Schools community will fondly remember this employee. Tonight, we send our deepest condolences to the employee's family and friends. It is with deep regret we inform you of the passing of Reginald S. Howell. Reginald Howell started his career with City Schools on November 28, 1984, where he served the staff and students for 40 years, most recently at Sinclair Lane Elementary School as a special education paraeducator. Mr. Howell unfortunately departed on December 10, 2024, and will be missed by his friends, family, and City Schools. Thank you. That concludes the moment of silence.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks. Is there a motion to approve the prior open session summaries?
Ames Messenger, so moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger. Is there a second?
Second. Esposito.
I'll take Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Ames Messenger, yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Reading Wallinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Has Commissioner Slater Harrington joined us just yet? Nope. And I am also in favor. Any opposition? This motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So moved, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second?
Ames Messenger, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Reading Wallinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks,
Yes.
and I am in favor. Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Just a moment. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to our January 14th meeting. There's a lot of procedural things I just want to read to make sure we're very clear on what is going to transpire tonight. This is a little bit different of a board meeting than our traditional meeting that we have. I am going to start. I'm going to pause on some of these different items that are in here for now and then kind of run through just kind of what is going to transpire much more directly tonight. So so for over a decade, City Schools has used a collection of academic and professional recommendations from our staff, students, families, and communities to review, discuss, plan, and implement physical and programmatic developments within the school district. This process is known as the annual review of schools. During a series of board meetings and public feedback sessions and COMAR hearings, the board collaborates with the public to find ways that best foster student learning and professional growth. We will discuss difficult topics such as creating new traditional schools, relocating schools, changes to grade configurations, renewing contracts or charters for schools run by external operators, amending the 21st Century Buildings Program, and even closing schools. With each conversation, we try to keep you well informed and create a space for you to comment on any portion of the proceedings. To keep you up to date, here's just a recap of what has happened during the annual review of schools process. So number one, the annual review of school recommendations for the 24-25 school year were presented to the school board during the November 12th public board meeting. The recommendations for the district included A, closing combining Edgewood Elementary with Gwen Falls Elementary School, with a smaller number of students being rezoned to Windsor Hills Elementary School. B, add the Joseph C. Briscoe building to the surplus list and surplus in summer 2026, when the renovated Frederick Douglass Briscoe campus is complete. C, remove the Southeast Middle building from the surplus list and replace it with the Joseph C. Briscoe building. D, change the surplus date for the Thurgood Marshall building from summer 2027 to summer 2026. E, charter school operator renewal updates for 18 charter schools. And second, the board hosted an opportunity for the public to comment on these recommendations in 2 virtual meetings on Thursday, December 12th and Thursday, January 9th. The board accepted written comments or data via email until Friday, January 10th. I also want to note that for operator renewal portion of tonight's vote, the board has the ability to accept, reject, or modify the CEO's recommendation before voting for each school. This means that within reason and as long as these actions comply with the administrative regulations and applicable state law, the board can use the full range of options available to them this evening, including renewing a school for 8 years, 5 years, or 3 years, and can add conditions to any of these terms, or can vote to non-renew an operator, so school, or non-renew the operator and keep the school open as a traditional school. Tonight's vote on the annual review of schools is a pivotal moment and will shape the district's work moving forward. The board does not take any of the suggestions recommended lightly. We truly appreciate the feedback we receive from our students, staff, families, and community. Thank you. Going to move to our PEP agenda this evening for our quasi judicial matters. Do we have PEP this evening? I welcome up our Chief of Human Capital, Emily Nilsson.
Thank you, Commissioner Sally. Good evening, Commissioners. On this evening's PEP agenda from the Office of the Chief Academic Officer, we have an appointment recommended that Brad Petrie, currently Educational Associate 10-month, be appointed Director Preschool Special Education effective January 25th, 2025. Recommended that Joy Guthrie, currently School Success Liaison Literacy, be appointed Coordinator Literacy Improvement effective January 25th, 2025. From the Office of the Chief of Schools, an appointment recommended that Keisha Jordan, currently Educational Associate at Park Heights Academy, be appointed Assistant Principal at Park Heights Academy effective January 25th, 2025. Recommended that Erwin Otero Santos, currently Educational Associate 10-month at Hollabird Elementary Middle, be appointed Assistant Principal at Hollabird Elementary Middle effective January 25th, 2025. Recommended that Taneepa Thomas, currently Educational Specialist 2 School Counseling, be appointed Assistant Principal at Carver Vocational Technical High School effective January 26th, 2025. Woo! Recommended that Sarah Dexter Thornton, currently Assistant Principal at Vivian T. Thomas Medical Arts, be appointed Managing Assistant Principal at Vivian T. Thomas Medical Arts effective January 25th, 2025 through June 30th, 2025. A reassignment recommended that Dana Quenu, currently Principal at Green Street Academy, be appointed Interim Assistant Principal at Paul Lawrence Dunbar effective January 25th, 2025 to June 30th, 2025. And from the Office of the Chief of Finance, an appointment, Sean McCollum, formerly Chief Financial Officer, Cecil County Government, be appointed Director of Accounting, effective January 25th, 2025. Congratulations to everyone on tonight's PEP agenda.
Thank you so much, Chief Nielsen. Normally that is Santelisa's remarks, but we switched around some of the agenda to accommodate this evening. So I am going to turn it over to Dr. Santelisa's for CEO comment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. And this evening's CEO comments, given the large amount of time we know that we dedicate to annual review each year, will be particularly short. And you all may say after this that it should be this way every week, and I'm okay with that. But I do want to not miss this opportunity to pass out an important shout out to Chief Lynette Washington, Executive Director Scott Washington, and the entire facilities team for their hard work throughout winter break to make sure that our schools were ready for students. Even before it snowed, the facilities team worked every day during break to check temperatures and maintain more than 160 school buildings throughout a period of intense cold. Following the snow early last week, the team worked efficiently to prepare our school campuses to receive students, allowing city schools to reopen earlier than many districts in our area. I want to give my sincere thanks to every member of this team for a job well done. We appreciate you. And Chair, that concludes my remarks for this evening. Yeah, I know. Don't get used to it. No, just kidding.
Is there a motion to approve the PEP and quasi judicial matters?
So moved, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta. Is there a second?
Second, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor? Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Ames Messenger, yes.
Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Commissioner Redding Lollinger?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington?
Yes.
And I am also in favor. This motion passes. I will now review the consent agenda. Board colleagues, please let me know if you would like an item removed, and please state your question for staff. Please note that all the Comar contract items will be voted on individually. 11.01 Schoolworks LLC. 15.01 Civic Works Transformational School Agreement. 15.02 Associated Catholic Charities Head Start Baltimore City Lease Agreement. Item 16.01 Express Scripts Prescription Drug Benefit Management Services, contract increase and extension. At 19.01 Game On Fitness contract increase. We'll move to public comment to Dr. Judkins. Is it item 5.01 number BTU? BTU. So go ahead, Dr. Judkins.
Okay. Do we have Melissa McDonald? Okay, this is actually a video. So Melissa McDonald she's a member of the Baltimore Teachers Union, and this will be a video for public comment. Tanish, we don't have any sound.
why don't we go ahead and skip this and move to general public comment?
Yeah. Jason, I do have one person who's commenting live. This is
Let me go pull it up.
Brigitte.
One moment, we're having technical difficulty.
Okay, thanks, Patricia. We're going to go ahead and do our live public comment if you guys want to work on that while we have that. We'll have Rhonda Riquetta come up, City Springs Elementary Middle School. Agenda topic, charter renewal for City Springs, and you will have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, Dr. Santelises. As you just heard, I'm Rhonda Riquetta, the very proud principal of City Springs Elementary Middle School. And I come before you today on behalf of our entire City Springs community to make a final heartfelt plea for your consideration to grant us more than a 3-year renewal. This request comes in light of the significant challenges we've faced during this renewal period, largely due to the relocation of our families by the Housing Authority of Baltimore City as part of the Perkins Homes redevelopment. A few weeks ago, I shared with you in detail the reasons behind our request. Today, I would like to provide you with some updated current data and that I hope will further inform your decision as you consider our appeal. Since the start of the 2024 school year, our enrollment has increased by 80 students. In November, 111 students had perfect attendance, and in December, the number rose to 149. In addition, the percentage of students who were chronically absent is trending to decrease significantly. Our chronic absenteeism rate for school year 23-24 was at an all-time high of 68.9%. Today, the percent of students who are trending towards being chronically absent is at 46.6%, a noteworthy improvement. This data clearly indicates that the relocation of our families had a direct and negative impact on our chronic absenteeism rate and, by extension, our climate rating for renewal. However, as more families return to our community, we are already seeing promising progress in our attendance, adding to our historically renowned positive and supportive school climate. With this in mind, I respectfully urge you to consider how the ongoing housing redevelopment has uniquely affected our school and community. I ask that you do not let this challenge negatively impact our renewal process. Instead, I ask for the opportunity to focus our time, energy, and resources on supporting the families who are returning and welcoming our new families to City Springs by granting us more than a 3-year renewal at this time. Along with the Baltimore Curriculum Project, our school staff, partners, scholars, and families look forward to continuing our work together with City Springs Elementary Middle School as a pillar of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go back to Melissa McDonald, member of Baltimore Teachers Union, for the video.
And swiftly switch to midterms and third. Good evening, board commissioners and Dr. Santelises. My name is Melissa McDonald, and I serve on the teacher chapter of the BTU Executive Board and am an ELA teacher at Connections. Today, I'm going to address 3 topics. 1, planning time. 2, the human capital recruitment practices. And 3, the CEO search. This is an intense time of year for educators. We reflect on our first semester outcomes and swiftly switch to midterms and third quarter tasks. We need a reduction in redundant tasks that consume our instructional planning time. BTU members need our academic planning time protected and not filled with mandated redundant tasks. Redundant tasks include writing and sending attendance letters, completing failure charts, inputting data into DataLink, attending repetitive PDs, and other data tracking efforts. We need more time for instructional planning so we can reflect on learner outcomes and adjust instructional feedback cycles instead of redundant tasks from North Avenue. This month, schools began sharing recruitment flyers within BTU ranks advertising vacancies, hoping to lure candidates to a new school home for next year. We, school-based staff, increasingly struggle due to staffing shortages, and this affects our students' learning and safety. Despite these critical shortages, year after year, new hires, both internal but especially external candidates, struggle with the same predictable challenges. During the job offer process, communication from human capital hiring team is extremely delayed, resulting in losing valuable candidates to other Maryland districts or schools. Confusion and misinformation regarding salary offers, and confusion and misinformation from the Office of Certification to the hiring team regarding who is eligible for a conditional certification. The BTU suggests the following 3 solutions to these perennial issues. 1, provide every external candidate a copy of the new hire salary placement chart from the BTU contract. Salary offers should not be a secret process. A transparent salary offer process would reduce the need for salary adjustments after incorrect placement on the salary pathway. Incorrect salary offers without an explanation drives external candidates away to other districts. 2, the hiring team needs to review COMAR regulations on certification. Why are certain candidates rejected when state law says they're eligible for a conditional license? Has the hiring team updated their guidance to align with the new MSDE certification regulations? And 3, prioritize timely communication to internal candidates and new hires. Why do external candidates wait months to hear back from human capital? Communication and job offers delay results in we, the educators, experiencing partially staffed schools in August, or new hires walking into schools without any training. Stop the practice of new hires walking into classrooms with 0 training or onboarding. With planning time and hiring practices in mind, we hope the CEO search will center a candidate who prioritizes increasing planning time for educators and decreasing the endless stream of initiatives and redundant tasks that take away from teaching and learning. We appreciate the board taking steps to conduct a national public transparent search for the next CEO. There are examples around the country that can support this board and district staff in the search process. The first step is engaging a full range of stakeholders to develop a profile of the ideal CEO candidate. A second strategy is to create a work group to support the board that includes labor, community, families, and students. This work group can be seated in coalition with the school board. Third, look at other districts. St. Paul, Minnesota, or Philadelphia, Pennsylvania public schools provided public-facing dashboards used to update the community during their CEO search. On the CEO search dashboard, the BTU wants publicly available timelines, consistent and meaningful updates, survey outcomes, and leadership profiles, large lists of candidates and lists of top finalists. The BTU wants community engagement opportunities widely advertised, as well as surveys and their responses published on the dashboard. Candidate interviews should be publicly streamed with the opportunity for public comment. The BTU wants the final 3 interviews held publicly and live streamed, and the final vote by the board for the CEO public and live streamed. Everything that can be legally done in the public domain should be done in the public domain. This is something that has been done in other districts and can be done here to ensure that our city gets the best outcome from the CEO search process. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. We have one more public comment from David Demarest, Baltimore City College, student certification. This will also be a video.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Demarest, and I am a secondary social studies teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools. I'm providing public comment on the issue of certification, but before I do, please note that my case is not unique. In November of 2022, I was hired on a conditional certificate while I was still completing my master's degree in certification requirements. Naturally, I was elated when I completed both in May of 2023 while finishing up my first year of teaching. I submitted all of my credentials via the SDE teaching portal and employee self-service. My graduate transcript with the Maryland Approved Program stamp, EdTPA score report, praxis content exam, and so on, and carefully followed the instructions of BCPSS certification officer officers to receive my then professional Kit 1 as quickly and smoothly as possible. It is now January of 2025. About 1 month ago, on December 11th, 2024, I finally received my initial professional license 1 over a year and a half after I had attained the requirements for it. The IPL1 label is the only part of my license that is correct. This document still says my highest degree is a bachelor's and does not list my secondary 7 through 12 social studies certification. I'd like to focus, though, on its issue date, May 30th, 2024, which occurred, by the way, 121 days after I applied for the then SPC1 and 195 days before the certificate itself was issued and sent to me as a PDF. The issue date of our teaching licenses is important. In line with district goals, I am pursuing national board certification. To even begin the national board process, a teacher must have a professional certificate or license in Maryland in IPL1 or higher, and to achieve certification, a teacher must have taught full-time for 3 years while possessing the professional certificate or license throughout. Because the issue date of my IPL1 was delayed by over a year, an entire year of committed teaching is essentially erased from my NBC employment eligibility, potentially delaying certification and career earnings too. The inefficiency from the Office of Certification de-incentivizes newer teachers and veteran teachers to achieve NBCT status. I share this timeline knowing that I speak for many educators across our district with similar stories, whose accomplishments and worth are devalued when they are not reflected on paper. Certification should be a smooth and timely process, not a pressing distraction from delivering quality education to our youth. Going forward, I implore the board to direct the Office of Human Capital to implement a more accurate, thorough, and efficient process for reviewing, issuing, and updating certificates and licenses. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Great, thank you so much. I believe that concludes all of our public comment for this evening. Based on public comments, are there any items any board members would like to pull from the consent agenda this evening? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda not related to Comar and contract renewal?
So moved, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed, Commissioner Parker. Sorry, it's absent. Commissioner Redding Wallinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Slayer Harrington,
Yes.
and I'm in favor. Any opposed? This motion passes. I will now turn it over and invite our staff. Actually, I'm going to invite our staff from the Office of New Initiatives to support the second part of our consent agenda this evening related to our Comar. And while we're waiting for staff to trickle in and up front, on an annual basis, the board, as I mentioned earlier, makes amendments to the 21st Century Buildings Plan. The board will now consider recommendations related to changes to Exhibit 6 of the 21st Century Buildings Plan. Actually, we'll give our colleagues from the Office of New Initiatives an opportunity to introduce themselves this evening.
Good evening, Chair Sally and Board Commissioners. I'm Angela Alvarez. I'm the Senior Executive Director of the Office of New Initiatives for City Schools.
Good evening, Tiffany Young, Specialist, Office of New Initiatives.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Lindsay Anderson. I'm a manager in the Office of New Initiatives.
Welcome, welcome. And when you're ready, stand by.
today. I said, hello. Wait a minute, I can hear myself in here. Can you hear me?
Oh.
Oh, good.
Why don't we go ahead and make sure everybody's muted? Thank you.
All right, there's a lot of logistics to. All right, before I start, I just want to thank all the people that are involved in this process. This is a huge process that includes a lot of stakeholders from our central office staff, teams, that involve members from almost every department, as well as our new and charter operator-led schools advisory board, which is a volunteer board who reviewed substantial applications and spent a substantial amount of time with the heavy lift of this year's process. I want to thank our school operators. We work in a district where I'm happy to say that I think all of our operators are sincere in trying to do right by kids. It's hard work. It's complicated work. And people are putting the best foot forward, which is not always true nationally when we look at what happens, especially in the operator world. I just want to thank our families. I know the board has been listening to all of the testimony, whether you sent in letters, you participated in work sessions, you participated in COMAR hearings, and really are tasked with some very challenging decisions in a district where it's not easy. And so I just wanted to sort of start with that. This set of recommendations touches probably on all of our board priorities, but in particular priorities 3 through 7. So everything from making sure our students, staff, and families have access to high quality, modernized facilities, to engaging stakeholders, including our students, and these important processes, to providing equitable access to district resources, ensuring that we have a high quality educational experience for students and increasing the number of schools that meet that, and making sure we're continuously working towards equity. One of the things that undergirds our belief is that all students in city schools deserve a high quality education in healthy facilities that support teaching and learning. This school system has been engaged over the last decade plus in major change work, resulting in monumental improvements to schools within our district not seen in many other places across the country. And as part of that deal has had to close and combine schools for a number of years. And one of the things that this school system has prioritized and our boards have prioritized is that school communities where we've had to close schools first as part of this plan were the first to get those historic investments from 21st century. And so when we're looking at where schools closed, you should also be paying attention to what schools open, even though it doesn't, there's loss and these are hard decisions. But we're all trying to do the best to live up to that ideal that I started at the beginning, and making a real sincere commitment to focusing on our communities that are disinvested in as first. And when, 21st century and built to learn doesn't get us to all of our schools. And so we've been using all sorts of different resources as we have continued to have to close and combine schools due to enrollment changes, in order to ensure that students are really getting everything that they deserve, to push and prioritize those schools for any additional resources we get, whether it's through the leadership of our Dr. Washington and her team, who was acknowledged at the beginning, and really being strategic in how we use our capital funds, under the leadership of our chief of staff and how we use partner funds to push into schools. And because of all of that, we're getting many more students into facilities that have seen investments, but the need is still there. And the way we're inequitably funded is still there. And we are continuing to advocate and will continue to advocate until we meet that goal. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay just to give an update on what's happened to schools that have gone through combining with other school communities.
Good evening. The first school that we're going to provide an update on is the historic Samuel Coleridge Taylor. Samuel Coleridge Taylor received students from Utah Marshburn when that school closed in 2023. It was one of 3 receiver schools from Utah Marshburn. So as a result, the year after they combined with students from Utah Marshburn, their enrollment went up 21%. After the merge with Utah Marshburn, they were able to add a full-time dance teacher and a full-time art teacher because they're named after a Black composer and musician. It's a vision of Principal Adams to really build up a robust arts program. They continue to steadily do that, expanding their arts offerings to include choir, production, media, and visual arts. Students also have access to after-school programming through the Y of Central Maryland, in-school tutoring, and a variety of clubs. The year after Samuel Coleridge Taylor absorbed students from Utah Marshburn, we renamed their community center after Teresa Marshburn, who was a parent and an advocate and a crossing guard in the community, as a way to maintain the legacy of her legacy and the legacy of the school. As Angela shared, we really leverage all of the internal and partnership investments we can when we make these closures and combinings. Samuel Coleridge Taylor is an example of that. Facilities improvements that we've made include in spring 2024, the school received a school makeover through the Heart of America and the Ravens that provided a renovation to the Teresa Marshburn Community Center, renovations to 2 staff lounges and VIP lounges for students, new painting in classrooms throughout the building, repairs and upgrades to the playground, landscaping and refreshes to the outdoor classroom space, renovations and new furniture in the school's courtyard, and repainting in the gym. In spring 2024, the school was awarded a Maggie McIntosh Art Center grant to renovate their auditorium and auditorium foyer. That amazing, beautiful space just opened in December, and you can see a lot of us were there for their premiere of the Nutcracker. The next school we wanted to share about is Augusta Fells Savage Institute for Visual Arts. Augusta Fells combined with high school students from Bluford Drew Jemison, which closed last year. So this is their first year as a combined school. Augusta Fells received 62% of the rising 9th through 12th graders from Bluford Drew Jemison. As a result of their increased school population, they've been able to increase their AP course offerings, as well as offerings in the arts. They've added photography and digital media to bridge the art and STEM focus of both schools. They also added a full-time librarian to support literacy across the school. This year, Redesigning Minds and the movement team have supported building a combined school culture at Augusta Fells. Redesigning Minds was a partner that was brought over from Bluford Drew Jemison, and they focus on providing male mentoring to students. So now they're working with all male students at Augusta Fells. This spring, we're going to be going through a renaming process to determine how the combined school can honor the legacy of Bluford Drew Jemison and Augusta Fells and their joint school culture, as both schools are named after notable African Americans. Facilities improvements that we've made so far include renovations last summer. They received a new health suite, upgrades to several classrooms, including new flooring, lighting, painting, and storage, security enhancements, and an upgrade to the PA system. Last fall, the school was named as a recipient of the Maggie McIntosh Art Center grant program, and they will receive renovations to their art gallery spaces that feature student work.
So now we're going to head into the voting portion of tonight. There's a lot of legal requirements that we have to make sure that we're on the record for. And so for members of the public, you're going to hear us read from a script. The script allows the board to modify, accept, approve, reject, do different things within it. The purpose of it is to make sure we don't make a technical error and all the required things are on the record. So it may sound a little stilted, but that is why. So we're here tonight for the votes. And so we're going to start with recommendations that are related to traditional schools. In that process, we're looking at academic performance and access to programs, climate indicators and availability of supports, access, quality, and distribution of programming, ensuring all populations of students are equitably served across geographic areas as well as across student populations, school enrollment and school size, building utilization and condition, actions necessary for the 21st century school buildings plan, and later we'll get to operator renewal of 18 schools up for review. We're going to start, Lindsay's going to walk us through amendments to Exhibit 6.
So as Angela shared, as a part of the 21st Century School Buildings Plan, the district was required to surplus 26 buildings back to the city of Baltimore. Exhibit 6 is the list of those buildings. We are able to make changes to Exhibit 6 as construction needs change and our needs as a district change, as long as 26 buildings remain on the list. To date, 23 of the 26 buildings have already been surplused. So the first change to Exhibit 6 is a recommendation to change the surplus date of the Thurgood Marshall Building from 2027 to 2026. The Thurgood Marshall Building currently houses Furley Elementary School and Vanguard Collegiate Middle School. They are in the Thurgood Marshall Building while their permanent school buildings are under construction. In 2023, the board voted to push the surplus date of the Thurgood Marshall Building to 2027, as we thought it might needed to be used for swing space for City College. Since then, the swing plan and construction schedules have changed, and City will be swinging onto the campus of the University of Baltimore. Furley is expected to move into its renovated building in summer 2025, and Vanguard will move in summer 2026. And at that point, we will not need to use the building for educational purposes. Therefore, we are recommending to change the surplus date to 2026.
Therefore, it is the recommendation of the CEO that Exhibit 6 of the 21st Century School Buildings Plan be amended to change the date of the Thurgood Marshall Building from 2027 to the surplus date of the Thurgood Marshall Building from 2027 to 2026.
I concur with the recommendations as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff? I'll open the floor as well for commissioners for discussion on the recommendation.
I move that the board accepts the CEO recommendation as stated.
Second.
Thank you so much. I'll now read a roll call. Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Ames Messenger, yes.
Commissioner Coy? Yes. Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Redding Wallinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington, and I am also in favor. That motion passes.
The next recommendation related to Exhibit 6 is related to the Southeast Middle Building and the Joseph Briscoe Building. The Southeast Building has served as a temporary swing location for schools receiving renovations through Capital Improvement Program or 21st Century. Currently, Commodore John Rogers is being housed in the Southeast Middle Building while their permanent building is being renovated as a part of 21st Century. We know the population is growing in the southeast area of the city, and the building could house a new school and alleviate overcrowding in other schools in that area. Therefore, we are recommending to remove the Southeast Building from Exhibit 6 and retain it in the city schools portfolio and use the building to house a new school once it's no longer needed for swing space. As a part of the 21st Century School Buildings Program, Joseph C. Briscoe will co-locate with Frederick Douglass in the renovated Douglass Building. So once that building is complete, the Briscoe Building will be no longer needed, and therefore we are recommending to add the Joseph C. Briscoe Building to Exhibit 6 with a surplus date of summer 2026 or when the renovated Frederick Douglass Briscoe campus is complete.
Therefore, it is the recommendation of the CEO that Exhibit 6 of the 21st Century School Buildings Plan be amended to remove the Southeast Building, retain the building in the city schools portfolio for use as a new school once it's no longer needed for swing space, and in its place add the Joseph C. Briscoe Building to Exhibit 6 with a surplus date of summer 2026, or when the renovated Frederick Douglass Briscoe campus is complete.
I concur with the recommendations as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening? And the floor for commissioners for discussion on the recommendation.
I move that the board accept the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks. I'll now read a roll call.
Second, it has to be second.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Second.
Moving parts here. Thank you. I'll take Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. I'll now read a roll call. Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Hollinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
and I'm also in favor. That motion passes. We'll now move forward into board closure, combining closure of a school.
So this recommendation is for Edgewood Elementary School. The recommendation is to combine Edgewood with Gwynns Falls Elementary School with a smaller number of students being rezoned to Windsor Hills Elementary Middle School by closing Edgewood Elementary. Split the Edgewood zone between the Windsor Hills Elementary Middle School zone and the Gwynns Falls Elementary School zone, and surplus the Edgewood building to the City of Baltimore in summer 2025 after it is no longer needed for educational purposes. Edgewood has been the smallest school serving grades pre-K through 5th grade in city schools for many years, and the enrollment continues to decline due to declining population in that part of the city. Sustainability for a school of this size has been a concern for many years. The school has needed supplemental funds to meet COMA requirements for the past several years. And when schools are this small and need supplemental funding just to meet basic requirements, school principals have to make tough decisions just to be able to offer the basics to their students, and are not able to offer everything that they would like to offer to students, the rich and robust programming that we know that all students deserve and that students in larger schools have access to. In order to help with utilization, Edgewood has become home to many citywide early learning programs and citywide elementary programs. If this recommendation is approved, city schools would relocate these programs to other schools. Nearby Gwynns Falls Elementary School and Windsor Hills Elementary Middle Schools both have space for more students, and all in-zone Edgewood students live within a mile of either school. All three schools have academic strengths, Edgewood, Gwynns Falls, and Windsor Hills, and it is the goal of this recommendation that by bringing the schools and the staff together, we will bring the strongest parts of all schools and will build on the strengths to benefit all school communities. And we hope that we demonstrated a little bit of that by what we're doing with schools that have recently combined. Despite its small size, Edgewood has had strong academic performance on the most recent Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, the MCAP assessment, for grades 3 to 5 in English Language Arts, and it was rated a 3-star school in 2023 and in 2024. So this is really about the declining enrollment and not academics. Edgewood, Gwynns Falls, and Windsor Hills have had very similar average student performance levels in English Language Arts. Their average student performance is 2.02, 2.09, and 1.98 respectively, or all within the developing learners category. So both Gwynns Falls and Windsor Hills are on par with Edgewood and ELA. For grades 3 through 5, Windsor Hills of the three schools has the strongest math performance on the most recent MCAP, where 23.5% of the students are proficient or advanced, which is 8.7 percentage points higher than Edgewood and 14.8 percentage points higher than Gwynns Falls. And so again, just sharing all of this to say that each school has strengths, and we hope to bring the strengths of all the schools together in this. Gwynns Falls, just a little bit about the receiving schools. Gwynns Falls is a community school with the Y Maryland as its lead agency. The school has been a social emotional learning site since school year 2018-19. They offer academically focused after-school programs through the YMCA, Springboard, and Literacy Connections. They offer amplified tutoring in math and literacy tutoring in Chapter 1 tutoring. Windsor Hills Elementary Middle School is a community school with the city schools as the lead agency. They have been an intensive wholeness site since 2019-20. They offer after-school programming through the Family League and Springboard, literacy tutoring through the Literacy Lab, math tutoring through Signition, and SEL clubs with Perfectly Me Superhero Club for elementary students. The school also offers athletic programs such as flag football, volleyball, basketball, tennis, and pom squad. So this slide just shows the Edgewood Elementary enrollment over time. And this is the map of the Edgewood students. And you can see here how the zone would be divided between Windsor Hills and Gwynns Falls if the recommendation is approved. The heat shows kind of where most of the students live in the zone. So students would be rezoned to either Windsor Hills or Gwynns Falls, depending on where they live in the zone.
Pick up here, Edgewood shares a right of way with the parking lot. That's the Walbrook building. And so this is just showing that part of what we're surplusing is in the dark blue in the bottom right where you see Edgewood. That's what we're surplusing. We're maintaining, obviously, our parking lot that goes to Walbrook building, houses KIPP, and our entry points into that. So this is just to be really clear about what's going back to the city. And so with that, the Code of Maryland Regulations, or COMAR, and City Schools Policy, FCA, closing of schools, requires that local boards of education ensure, at a minimum, that consideration is given to the impact of a proposed closure on the following 8 factors. Student enrollment trends. Data taken into consideration may include, as appropriate, student enrollment trends for the last 5 years, including disaggregated data on student disabilities and English learners for both the school proposed for closure and the school or schools to which students are proposed to be rezoned. 2, age of condition of the school building. Data taken into consideration may include dates of the last major renovations of both the school proposed for closure and the school or schools to which students are proposed to be rezoned. 3, transportation. Data taken into consideration may include transportation and considerations for safe travel of students regarding both the school proposed for closure and the school or schools to which students are proposed to be rezoned. 4, educational programs. Data taken into consideration may include education programs in both the school proposed for closure and the school or schools to which students are being proposed to be rezoned, including 1, specialized programs like advanced placement, honors programming, special education programs, athletics, restorative practice designations, before and after care, tutoring and mentoring, and or community partnerships as available. 2, school performance data, including state assessments as available. 3, school climate culture data as available. And 4, staffing, including teacher retention and certification data as available. 5, racial composition of the student body. Data taken into consideration may include information regarding both the school proposed for closure and the school or schools to which students are proposed to be rezoned. 6, financial considerations. Data taken into consideration may include information regarding both the school proposed for closure and the school or schools to which students are proposed to be rezoned, including additional allocations needed to stabilize school budgets, the ability of the receiving school or schools to provide robust academic programming, pending facilities challenges, and facility debt at the school proposed for closure. 7, student relocation. Data taken into consideration may include geographic challenges, opportunities, distance of students from the school proposed for closure and the school or schools to which students are proposed to be rezoned, movement of citywide education programs associated with the school proposed for closure, and impact on student access to specialized programming. And 8, impact on community and geographic attendance area for the school proposed to be closed and or schools to which students will be relocating, including opportunities and challenges in the geographic attendance area for the school proposed for closure and the schools or schools to which students will be relocating. For tonight's recommendation to combine school communities by closing one traditional school, the board has received data including each of the 8 COMAR factors. The schools recommended for combining is Edgewood Elementary School with Gwynns Falls Elementary School and a portion to Windsor Hills Elementary Middle School. Based on the consideration of staff recommendations presented in the annual review of schools recommendations report, testimony at the board hearings, the contents of the official record, the 8 COMAR factors just read. It is a recommendation of the CEO that the Edgewood Elementary School program combines with Glens Falls Elementary School, that Edgewood Elementary School closes effective summer 2025, that the board approved the expansion of the Glens Falls Elementary Zone to include the portion of Edgewood Zone east of Garrison Boulevard and Edgewood Street, and the expansion of the Windsor Hills Elementary Middle Zone to include the portion of the Edgewood Zone west of Garrison Boulevard and Edgewood Street, and that city schools surplus the Edgewood building and parcel, excluding the Walbrook parking lot and entryway, back to the city of Baltimore in summer 2025.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening?
Sure.
Yes.
If I may, I just want to speak on this as one who actually lives in one of the zones. I live in Windsor Hills, and had the opportunity to visit all 3 of the schools that are in question. And I just want to commend the thoughtfulness, the sincerity of everybody that has been involved at the school level in these considerations, and just add that it's obviously a change that is being proposed here, but the thoughtfulness is of note. And so I wanted to add my my thoughts there and say that, you know, I took that opportunity because of wanting to see and understand what size of elementary and elementary middle schools is a healthy size from not only the physical facilities perspective, not only the budget perspective, but especially the student learning and experience perspective. So thank you for the hard work that you all have put into this thoughtful process.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy.
I'd also like to comment. I think one of the things that was made pretty clear in talking to folks as we were visiting schools is that there's a desire to really potentially reinvigorate and rethink and reimagine programming in that part of Baltimore. And I want us as a board and as a district to take that seriously, and as well as to note that there are some very special programs at Edgewood, and that we take very seriously the care and support of those programs in whatever form they take moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Reagan-Wallinger. Additional comments? I'll now open the, excuse me, go ahead.
Move that based on the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the annual review of schools recommendations report issued on November 12th, the testimony given at the 2 public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the 8 COMAR factors, that the board accept the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. May I hear a second?
Ames Messenger, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger. I'll now read a roll call. Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Ames Messenger, yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed.
No.
Thank you, noted. Commissioner Reagan-Wallinger.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Rooks.
No.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks. Commissioner Slater Harrington.
No.
No. And I am in favor. 4, 5 in favor, 6 in favor, I'm sorry, 3 opposed, and 1 absent. That motion passes.
Okay, we're gonna head into operator renewal. Before we go too far, I want to invite Chief Jones to introduce herself and turn on her camera.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. This is Teresa Jones, Chief Achievement and Accountability Officer.
Chief Jones is joining us from a conference. She's a hardworking lady. And so we'll be tag teaming in person and virtually tonight between the 3 of us. We have 18 schools that are up for renewal. Our operator renewal process was originally developed in 2012, working with operators and other partners to ensure that we had a robust process that had some level of consistency while also being able to manage changes that can occur year to year. We've gone through different state assessments during that time. We've experienced COVID during that time. And so we've created a very robust process that considers both qualitative and quantitative feedback and has flexibility to deal with those sorts of changes. Renewal for all the schools that are up actually started for them last school year. So they've been going through this process for a while with coming to the culmination tonight. The board for any school can make any of the following recommendations consistent with board policy and required law. They can approve a school for a 3-year renewal, which is considered a partial renewal, a 5-year renewal, which is considered a full renewal, an 8-year renewal, which is considered an extended year renewal. That's for schools who've had 2 prior full renewals consecutively before tonight and were effective or highly effective. Those are schools that get recommended for an 8-year renewal in all of the key areas, or a non-renewal. And a non-renewal can be anything from a non-renewal and close school at the end of the year, or a non-renewal and keep the school open as a traditional school. So all of those options for every school are before the board tonight. The process is multi-tiered. It started with our charter and operator-led schools advisory board, whose function is to review the applications submitted by our operators and provide advice to the CEO on what the recommendations should be for each school based on the review of those applications. The CEO then considers those and then finalizes recommendations that go to the board, and some of that finalization continues during the process in consideration of what's happened in work sessions and what's happened in community meetings. And tonight we're before the board, whose role it is to make the ultimate decision. And the board has to consider all of the things that have happened so far. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get into our first school.
Great, thank you so much. The first school for consideration this evening is the Baltimore Design School. This is a school for students in grades 6 through 12, which approximately 502 students enrolled. It's actually opened in 2011 and has had a history that involved 2 prior full-term renewals. Next slide, please. This evening's recommendation is an 8-year renewal. This school received effective ratings in all 3 categories as noted: student achievement, climate, and finance and governance. Several of the highlights are listed here. If you'll indulge me, I will read through these, noting that there is additional information available in the renewal report. They received a highly effective rating in the area of ELA 10, which indicated that the average learner is performing at a level 3 or a proficient learner level of proficiency. This indicates that students have demonstrated that required knowledge and skills that are expected for the grade level. And there are 60.3% of students reaching proficiency, which is 33.4 percentage points higher than the median for other schools with similar levels of poverty. They were also rated highly effective based on their 4-year cohort graduation rate. They had a 3-year average of 98.7%. And for 2 of those 3 years, their rates were 100%, which also included the year 2023. On the 5 Essentials survey, they were noted as having been well organized for success, which yielded a highly effective rating for that particular item. They were also noted as effective in their chronic absence data, where we saw significant decreases since school year 21-22, and that would decreases were in grades 6 through 8 and grade band 9 through 12, respectively by 26.8 and 14.4 points. When it comes to fidelity to charter and application overall, they were also rated highly effective. This particular measure is an indication that the school is delivering effective programming, which is aligned to its mission. Specifically, I quote, Baltimore Design School fosters creativity and develops the academic and critical thinking skills of 6th through 12th grade students, and that they focus on architecture, fashion design, and graphic design and interactive media.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session, and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Baltimore Design School Incorporated to operate Baltimore Design School be renewed for 8 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2033.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff? I'll now open the floor for commissioners for discussion on the recommendation. For a motion from one of my fellow commissioners.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendations and the rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operators run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulations IHBJ-RA, including sections 3K of the policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial reviews, that the board accept the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
So moved. Or second.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Ames Messenger, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Abstain.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy. Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding-Ollinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater-Harrington.
Yes.
Thank you, and I am in favor. That motion passes.
Up next, we have City Neighbors High School, number 376, operated by City Neighbors Foundation, Inc., grade configuration 9th through 12th grade, current enrollment 417. City Neighbors High School opened in 2010, has had 2 prior full-term renewals, and currently is in a 5-year renewal. City Neighbors High rated effective in student achievement, effective in climate, effective in finance and governance, and the recommendation is an 8-year renewal. More context, they're effective in MCAP absolute performance for ELA 10 MCAP, where the average student is performing at a level 2 developing learner, indicating that students have partial proficiency. 33.3% of students reach proficiency for this test, which is 6.4 percentage points higher than the median for schools with similar poverty. Not effective in MCAP absolute performance for Algebra 1, where the average learner is performing at a level 1 beginning learner, indicating that students need additional academic support to ensure success in the next grade level. Effective in 4-year cohort graduation rate, with a 3-year average of 87.5%. The grad rate has increased over time with the 2023 4-year cohort graduation rate at 90%. They are highly effective in the 5 Essential Survey. This indicates that the school is well organized for success. They're also effective in each of the 4 school effectiveness review measures: highly effective instruction, talented people, vision and engagement, and strategic leadership and professional management. This means effective school practices or systems have been adopted at the school and are being implemented at a level that is improving the school's effectiveness.
In accordance with policy IHBJ, administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session, and public hearings, the contents of the official record, it is a recommendation of the CEO that the contract with City Neighbors Foundation, Inc. to operate City Neighbors High School be renewed for 8 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2033.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening?
I move.
Please go ahead.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.K of the policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accept the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Second.
Thank you. I'll take a second from Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Ames Messenger, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Allinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and I'm also in favor. That motion passes.
Next, we have the Tunbridge School, which is operated by AFIA Baltimore. It is a school that supports students in grades pre-K through 8, and they have 508 students enrolled. This school opened in 2010 and has had 2 full-term renewals and is currently in a 5-year renewal term. The Tunbridge School is being recommended for an 8-year renewal with conditions to participate in a mid-contract administration of the 5 Essential Survey or similar tool. They received effective ratings in all 3 categories for student achievement, climate, and finance and governance. They were rated highly effective in their MCAP growth for students ELA 4 to 5. They were ranked in the 82nd percentile. For middle grades math, they were in the 99th percentile, and for middle grades ELA, they were in the 96th percentile. Again, growth is a measure that helps us understand to what extent did the school actually improve individual student performance year to year. When we take a look at their absolute performance in MCAP, they were also rated highly effective for performance in grade band ELA 6 to 8. This is where average student performance is at a level 3 level, which is the proficient learner level, again indicating that the students are demonstrating the required knowledge and skills that are expected for their grade level. And they had a proficiency rate of 63.5%, which is 5.6% higher, 5.6 percentage points higher than the median for schools with similar levels of poverty. They're rated they're rated effective in their MCAP absolute performance for middle grade math. Students there were performing at a level 3, which is the proficient learner level. When we take a look at their absolute performance in math 3 to 5 and ELA 3 to 5, they were rated developing. Developing is an indication that the average student is performing at a level 2, which is an indication that students have partial proficiency. They were rated either or highly effective in each of the 4 school effectiveness review measures, which include highly effective instruction, talented people, vision and engagement, and strategic leadership and professional management. This is an indication that the school has effective practices or systems that have been adopted and are being implemented at a level that is improving the school's effectiveness, and where highly effective is an indication that the practices are having a strong or significant or sustainable impact on the school's overall level of effectiveness.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator run school work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with AFIA Baltimore Inc. to operate the Tunbridge School be renewed for 8 years, with the condition that the school participate in a midpoint review via the 5 Essential Survey or similar tool at year 4, and for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2023.
I concur with the recommendations as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening? Thank you. I'll now open the floor for commissioners for discussing the recommendation.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendation and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.K of the policy, providing that the board may decide that the public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accepts the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Rooks. May I hear a second?
Second, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Allinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and I'm also in favor. That motion passes.
Next, we have City Neighbors Hamilton, number 346, operated by City Neighbors Foundation, Inc., grade configuration pre-K through 8th grade, current enrollment 233. City Neighbors Hamilton opened in 2009. The school has had both full and partial renewals, currently in a 3-year renewal, which was the max that year due to the impact of COVID. City Neighbors Hamilton rated effective in student achievement, effective in climate, effective in finance and governance. The recommendation is for a 5-year renewal. They rated highly effective in ELA 6 through 8 MCAP growth at the 80th percentile relative to the other city schools in the same grade band, and in math 6 through 8, 88th percentile. Growth is the extent to which a school improves individual student performance year to year. They rated developing in MCAP absolute performance for ELA 3 through 5, math 3 through 5, ELA 6 through 8, and math 6 through 8, indicating students are developing learners in the subject and have partial proficiency. Highly effective on the 5 essential survey, indicating the school is well organized for success. Also a highly effective in suspensions as well as chronic absence. The school's chronic absence and suspensions rates have remained low throughout the contract term and are well below the district averages for each grade band it serves. The school attributes its success to the strength of its model that elevates student engagement, relationships, and parent-school partnership.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session, and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with City Neighbors Foundation, Inc. to operate City Neighbors Hamilton be renewed for 5 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2030.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff? Hearing none, I'll open the floor for commissioners for discussion of the recommendation.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given by the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in the policy IHBJ and the administrative regulations IHBJ-RA, including section 3.K of the policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accept the CEO's recommendations as stated.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Reagan Wallinger. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy? Absent, Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Reagan Wallinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and let me circle back to Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you, and I'm also in favor this evening. That motion passes.
The next recommendation is for Fermanagh Templeton Preparatory Academy. This is a school that serves students in pre-K through 5th grade. They have 432 students enrolled, and actually they were a traditional school which became a charter school in 2011, and they have had multiple partial renewals and are currently in a 3-year renewal term. Next slide, please. Fermanagh Templeton Preparatory Academy is being recommended for a 5-year renewal. They received effective ratings in all 3 categories: student achievement, climate, and finance and governance. They received an effective rating in their MCAP absolute performance for ELA grades 3 to 5. This is where the average student was performing at a level 2, which is at the developing learner level, indicating partial proficiency. 20% of students received proficiency for this particular assessment, which is 6 percentage points higher than the median for other schools with similar poverty levels. They were rated developing in their MCAP absolute performance for math for grade band 3 to 5, where the average learner is performing at a level 2, the developing learner level, again indicating partial proficiency. They were rated developing for their MCAP growth measure for ELA 4 to 5. They were in the 77th percentile in the district for that particular area, and they were developing when it comes to MCAP growth for math for 4 to 5 in the 57th percentile. Again, growth is an indication of progress for students as we compare them to their students statewide with similar prior test scores. So improvement in the individual student performance. On the 5 Essential Survey, the school was rated highly effective based on an indication that the school's ratings indicate that they are well organized for success.
And Chief, correct, they were effective in MCAP growth for ELA 4 through 5. In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with FL Templeton Preparatory Academy, Inc. to operate Furman L. Templeton Preparatory Academy be renewed for 5 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends June 30, 2030.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening? Okay. I'll now open the floor to commissioners for discussion on recommendation.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendation and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.K of the policy providing that the board may decide that the public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, and that the board accepts the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Ames Messenger, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington?
Yes.
And I'm also in favor. That motion passes this evening.
Up next, Bard High School Early College Baltimore, number 362. Operator, Bard College. Grade configuration, 9th through 12th grade. Current enrollment, 457. Bard High School Early College Baltimore was opened in 2015. They've had 1 prior full renewal. Bard rated effective in student achievement, developing in climate, effective in finance and governance. The recommendation is for a 3-year renewal. Bard rated highly effective in ELA 10, where the average student is performing at a level 3, which is a proficient learner, indicating that students demonstrate the required knowledge and skills expected for grade level. 53.1% of students reach proficiency for this test, which is 26.2% percentage points higher than the median for schools with similar poverty. They were effective in a 4-year cohort graduation rating with a 3-year average of 89.2%. Highly effective in college and career readiness. College and career readiness looks at the extent to which a secondary school is preparing a student for college and career by looking at a school participation and success in indicators such as the ACT or the SAT exams, CTE, dual enrollment, AP or IB. BARD is at the 100th percentile. Developing and suspensions. While the school is aware of its data and the school has implemented strategies it believes will reduce suspensions, these strategies have not yet proven effective. Finally, they're developing in 2 of the 4 school effectiveness review measures, highly effective instruction and talented people. A developing rating of the SCR means evidence indicates that the key action, including some indicators, is a practice of or system that is emerging at the school, but is not yet implemented at a level that has begun to improve the school's effectiveness.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session, and public hearings, the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Bard College to operate Bard High School Early College Baltimore be renewed for 3 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff? I'll now open the floor for commissioners for discussion of the recommendation.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendation and rationale of the CEO, the operative renewal report, the testimony given at the operative renewal run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ RA, including section 3.k of the policy, providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accepts the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes,
Thank
sorry.
you. It's okay. Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. And I'm also in favor that motion passes this evening.
Next, we have the recommendation for the City Springs Elementary Middle School. This is a school that's operated by the Baltimore Curriculum Project and serves students in pre-K through 8th grade. It is an enrollment of 480 students. It was originally a traditional school, which became a charter school in 1997. It has had a history that includes both full and partial renewals, and it is currently in a 3-year renewal, which was the maximum that was available due to COVID at the time that they went through the process. There is a recommendation this evening for a 3-year renewal for City Springs Elementary Middle School based on the following ratings: an effective rating in the category of student achievement, developing for climate, and effective rating for finance and governance. They received an effective rating on their MCAP absolute performance measure for ELA 3 to 5. This is where the average student is performing at a level 2 or the developing learner level of proficiency, which is a partial proficiency. 27% of students reached proficiency for this particular test, and that was 13 percentage points higher than the median proficiency rate for other schools with similar levels of poverty. They were rated developing in their absolute performance for ELA 6 to 8, Math 3 to 5, and Math 6 to 8, where the average learner is performing at a level 2, the developing learner level, with proficiency rates that are slightly higher than the median for schools with similar poverty in Math 3 to 5 and Math 6 to 8. They are rated highly effective in their 5 essential survey results, indicating that the school is well organized for success. They were also rated effective in fidelity to charter and the application overall, indicating that the school's mission is clear to most stakeholders and that the school has implemented effective strategies to address challenges that were evident in the school's data. City Springs' mission is to improve student outcomes, raise educational standards, and to increase access to opportunities. Their key design elements include direct instruction, restorative practices, and core knowledge, and the school conducts weekly reviews of cohort and individual student data, utilizes staff action teams, and quarterly goal setting as a way to address challenges in their data.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is a recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Baltimore Curriculum Project, Inc. to operate City Springs Elementary Middle School be renewed for 3 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028. And then I need to say one thing that I forgot to say at the beginning. We can't consider the testimony that was tonight. There was not supposed to be any test. The record closed on January 10th.
Thank you for that important amendment for this evening.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening?
Yes. Can we speak towards, because I think this is very important, the impact of Perkins Homes closing, and are we aware of the impact as parents return to the community? Have our not taken into any consideration of what was presented this evening? Do we have any insight into the enrollment increasing based on parents returning after being removed from Perkins Homes?
enrollment decrease. So City Springs before that project was a school of like 800 kids. In fact, they needed to be in two buildings. The City Springs building, and then their early learning grades were in the Lombard building across the street because they outgrew that. Once the Perkins Home project started, their enrollment, I think it's like half what it used to be.
Is it likely that the cohort retention rating of not effective was impacted by those events?
We actually updated their rating on cohort retention because we think it was impacted. So we actually removed that as a consideration and spread the points because there's a one-to-one relationship with that with that change based on the period they looked at.
Please go ahead, Commissioner.
I move, based upon the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operators run school work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, that the board reject the CEO's recommendation and modify it to renew the school for a term of 5 years to commence July 1st, 2025 and run through June 30th, 2030.
Thank you, Commissioner. Based upon that motion that's on the floor, is there a second?
I second.
Second,
Thank you. I'll take-
can I provide additional rationale? For that?
Sure. Let
you
me
want it?
accept a second.
I defer to
Commissioner Amesbury?
Commissioner Amesbury.
Thank you.
I was just given the sizable displacement of students in the surrounding neighborhood, as well as the long and restorative culture that they have built in the building to build a healthy and responsive school culture. Would be looking to support a 5-year renewal.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
Yes, I just wanted to add that given time that is needed for recovery after something that happened that was not the school's fault, that we need to be tolerant and also help them build back. As the community builds back, the school builds back.
Thank you. Additional comments?
Point
Let's,
of clarification.
yes, ma'am.
So the motion that is on is for a 5-year, not for the record 3.
That's right. Yeah,
Point of
for
clar-
5 years. So just to
Thank
be
you.
really clear, the motion on the floor is for a 5-year renewal. Yeah. Based upon that, and we have a second on the floor, going through the roll call this evening. So Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Coy,
No.
thank you. Commissioner Coy, no. Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Redding Lollinger,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Rooks,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
thank you. And I'm in favor. That motion passes with 8 in favor, 1 no, and 1 absent this evening.
This is me. So City Neighbors Charter School is an elementary middle school. They have roughly 250 students. They opened in 2005 as a charter school. They've had a history of both full and partial renewals, and they're currently in a 3-year renewal. This school is effective in student achievement, school climate, and financial management and governance. It is recommended for a 3-year renewal because it's not effective in effective programming for students with disabilities. And so when there is a not effective in that impacts a population of students, the recommendation has been to reduce that in order to address that. In particular, when we're looking at programming for students with abilities, we're looking at the extent to which the school has demonstrated a strong trajectory of growth, is aware of its data and responsibility of students with disabilities, and has effectively and consistently implemented processes, interventions, and strategies to support student outcomes, special education compliance reviews, have found significant issues that impact the delivery of services to students that required free and public education or FAPE evaluations. In this school year, we are seeing some improvement in practices, but that finding was significant, and there was a review of their entire students with disability population that found challenges across 3 years. They are highly effective in each of its MCAP growth measures, ELA 4 through 5, ELA 6 through 8, Math 4 through 5, and Math 6 through 8, where the schools in the 84th, 86, and 94th percentiles respectively. They're effective in MCAP absolute performance for ELA 3 to 5, where the average student performance is a level 2, indicating partial proficiency, but where the school's proficiency of 45.8% is 15.6 percentage points higher than the median for schools with similar poverty. They are effective in MCAP absolute performance for Math 3 to 5, where that 23.9% is 5.7% percentage points higher than the median for schools with similar poverty. They are developing an effective programming for all student racial ethnic groups, which considers schools with diverse populations, whether there are achievement gaps that exist between student groups, whether the school is providing high quality programming for all students, and the processes and practices the school is using to address gaps and ensure high achievement for all students. This school had prior conditions related to this area. The school's Math 3 to 5 MCAP state growth percentile ranks from then with change from the 44th percentile to the 59th percentile, higher than the median. In ELA 3 to 5 MCAP, SGP fell from the 54th percentile to the 41st percentile, which is basically the median. In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative IHBJ, regulation IHBJ RA, and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, the content of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with City Neighbors Foundation, Inc. to operate City Neighbors Charter School be renewed for 3 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening? I'll now open the floor for commissioners for discussion on the recommendation.
Unless there's discussion, I will offer an amendment.
Please.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ RA, including section 3.k of the policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for two consecutive partial renewals, that the board modify the CEO's recommendation to add the following condition. A, that the school improves its practices when it comes to providing services and programming to students with disabilities, and that the operator ensures the school improves compliance with relevant requirements, and the subsequent reviews of the school's special education practices must demonstrate substantial improvement, particularly in areas that reflect services to students.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding-Wallinger. Based upon the motion that's on the floor this evening, is there a second?
Second, Mohammed.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed. All in favor? Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Redding-Wallinger?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Rooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Slater-Harrington?
Yes.
And I'm also in favor. That motion passes.
Up next, we have Elman A. Henderson at Johns Hopkins Partnership School, number 368, operated by East Baltimore Community School, Inc., grade configuration pre-K through 8th grade, current enrollment 637. Henderson Hopkins opened in 2009. The school has had both full and partial renewals. Currently, they're in a 3-year renewal. Henderson rated developing and student achievement, effective in climate, effective in finance and governance. The recommendation is for a 3-year renewal. They rated highly effective in MCAP growth for math 6 through 8. They're in the 89th percentile in the district, effective in ELA 6 through 8, 65th percentile. Growth is the extent to which a school improves individual student performance year to year. They're effective in MCAP absolute performance for ELA 3 through 5 and ELA 6 through 8, where the average student is performing at a level 2 developing learner, indicating that students have partial proficiency. For grades 3 through 5, 19.7% of students reach proficiency for this test, which is 5.7 percentage points higher than the median for schools with similar poverty. For grades 6 through 8, 28.4% of students are proficient, which is 8.1 percentage points higher than the median for similar schools. They rated developing and MCAP absolute performance for math 3 through 5, where the average student performance is performing at a level 2 developing learner, indicating that students have partial proficiency but need additional academic support to ensure success in the next grade level. They rated not effective in MCAP absolute performance for math 6 through 8, where the average learner is performing at a level 1 beginning learner, indicating that students need additional academic support to ensure success in the next grade level. Finally, they are effective in 3 of the 4 school effectiveness review measures: talented people, vision and engagement, and strategic leadership and professional management, as well as in 7 of the 12 key actions. This means effective school practices or systems have been adopted at the school and are being implemented at a level that is improving the school's effectiveness.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on testimony at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings and the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with East Baltimore Community School, Inc. to operate Elmer A. Henderson, a Johns Hopkins Partnership School, be renewed for 3 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening? Please.
Real quick question for you, because the amount of innovation I expect out of a school with such a strong backing in education, have we seen a push to improve? Because the results are good, but they're not what I expect from such an institution.
Yeah, they definitely have strong reflective practice. They're a school that I think I would say one of the first schools in the district to really embrace continuous improvement. And so that's reflected like in their application. If you visit their school, they are really working hard on increasing literacy within their school. So there's been like an intentional focus on that practice. They really are a school that believes in coaching. So making sure that teachers are getting coached, that are coached, the school leaders getting coached, and making sure that people are getting the tools they need to refine practice. And so this is a school operator that's always asking, how can we be better? How can we improve? In fact, their questions during this process was, oh, we were weak in this area. What should we do? When can we meet to figure out how we do better?
Thank you.
Based on that, I'll open the floor for discussion of the recommendation. Is there a motion?
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendation and rationale of the CEO, the operative renewal report, the testimony given at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.K, of the policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accepts the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks. Is there a second?
Second, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor? Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Abstain.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redden Wallinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and I'm in favor. That motion passes with 8 in favor, 1 abstention this evening. And one.
Next week,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. about
no, no problem. Next, we have the recommendation for the Govans Elementary School. This is the school that's operated by the Baltimore Curriculum Project and serves students in pre-K through 5th grade. They have an enrollment of 408 students. Govans Elementary was originally a traditional school, which became a charter in 2015. The school has had multiple consecutive full renewals and is currently in a 5-year term. Govans Elementary School is being recommended for a 3-year renewal based on the following ratings. In the areas of student achievement and finance and governance, they were given an effective rating and then developing in the area of climate. Some of their highlights include an effective rating in MCAP growth for math 4 to 5. They were rated in the 76th percentile in the district. They were rated developing in the ELA 4 to 5 measure at the 63rd percentile. Again, growth is the extent to which a school improves the individual student performance year over year. They were also rated developing when it comes to the MCAP absolute performance for ELA 3 to 5 and math 3 to 5, where the average student is performing at a level 2, which is the developing learner level, indicating that they have partial proficiency. They were also rated developing in their suspensions. As the school is aware of its data, has had positive behavior interventions in place and has implemented appropriate strategies that the school believes will decrease suspensions. These efforts have yet to be proven effective. The school has had a focus on relationship building and restorative practices and has implemented a peer mediator program that supports students in 4th and 5th grades to be student leaders. Again, however, the school suspensions have actually increased over the last 3 years and are higher than the district average for students in grades 3 to 5.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract of Baltimore Curriculum Project, Inc. to operate Govans Elementary School be renewed for 3 years for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff before we proceed? Please.
Based on suspension data, has this operator submitted any plan, or there was a plan, there's still not evidence to support that that plan is working?
Yeah, I think the peer mediation program is fairly new. And so it's not yet showing in the data. It's not yet decreasing their suspensions. Their suspensions are.
Is it the feeling based on your experience that conditions would not be warranted in this case?
Yeah, I think this is an operator in a school that is well known for like restorative practice. I think it's going to take time to figure out what are the technical things that are not yet residing in that data and make those fixes. But I mean, you're free to add conditions. I don't think it's necessary. The CEO's recommendation was not to add conditions.
And I think part of that is because the operator has actually served as a model and a trainer in other school settings with that.
Did
So
he say that wasn't fair?
Don't zone in on that little girl.
love having, believe me, you can take my seat. But I do think because of the operator's track record, particularly in restorative practices and demonstrating plans over the years, we did not feel in this particular case with this particular operator that was necessary. That doesn't mean we won't monitor, thus the recommendation, but that was the rationale.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any additional comments this evening? I'll now open the floor to my fellow commissioners for discussion on the recommendation. A motion on the floor.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendation and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ RA, including section 3.K of the policy providing that the board may decide that public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accepts the CEO recommendations as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Abstain?
Thank you, Commissioner Poi.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Wallinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and I'm in favor. That motion passes.
Baltimore Montessori Public Charter School number 336, operated by Baltimore Montessori Inc., grade configuration pre-K through 8th grade, enrollment 604. The school opened in 2008 and has had 2 prior partial renewals, but not consecutively. Baltimore Montessori rated developing and student achievement, effective in climate, effective in finance and governance, and the recommendation is for a 3-year renewal with conditions to maintain the current enrollment, inclusive of the early learning grades. They rated developing in English language arts 3 through 5, math 3 through 5, and ELA 6 through 8, where the average student is performing at a level 2 developing learner, indicating that students have partial proficiency but need additional academic support to ensure success in the next grade level. They're developing an effective programming for all student, racial, ethnic groups, which for schools with diverse populations looks at whether there are achievement gaps that exist between student groups, whether the school is providing high-quality programming for all students, and the processes and practices the school is using to address gaps and ensure high achievement for all students. They rated highly effective or effective in 3 of the 4 school effectiveness review measures: talented people, strategic leadership, and professional management, and vision and engagement, as well as in 9 of the 12 key actions. This means effective school practices or systems have been adopted at the school and are being implemented at a level that is improving the school's effectiveness. And where highly effective, the practices are having a strong, significant, or sustainable impact on the school's effectiveness. The condition being recommended is that the school not increase in enrollment beyond current enrollment, including in pre-kindergarten.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session, and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Baltimore Montessori Incorporated to operate Baltimore Montessori Public Charter School be renewed for 3 years, with the condition that the school does not continue to expand its enrollment and that it instead maintains current enrollment inclusive of early learning grades, and for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff? Now open the floor for commissioners for discussion on the recommendation.
I do want to raise for the board, I think.
That was someone's button there.
I'm curious about this condition, and I think as a matter of principle, for a school that is performing well, and that, to my understanding, has a robust waiting list, and in fact, they run a lottery every year. Combined with the fact that I believe the operator stated that they understand that it wouldn't be prudent to grow now, I don't want to constrain schools like this in the future. And so I don't, as a matter of principle, I don't think the condition is one that would be wise for us to keep on there, but I would like to open it up to discussion for other board members with perhaps contrary views.
So I'll add that the benefit of the young people matriculating through their system, then we'll be able to see those results in later years in the higher grades. So I agree with you, and I'm open to changing and making modification to this. Open to hear what other commissioners think before we suggest any amendments.
After the meeting.
Okay.
So if there are no additional comments from board colleagues, I will entertain a motion.
I move that
Point of clarification, the limitation on continued growth would only be for the terms of the 3-year renewal, that we would then be able to reconsider after that 3 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I think on this one, I would go with the recommendations as written, that given just strains around leadership transition, communication between administration, massaging how do you implement the Montessori model, which is a challenging one in a public school setting, that I think providing that accountability for the time being would be my instinct.
But so respectfully, I think my stance would be that I think the school knows best when the school is ready to expand it, especially given that they've demonstrated I've heard them say that they don't think it would be prudent to grow this year. I think a lot can happen in a year and a lot can happen in 2 years. And so I just don't believe we should be putting artificial constraints on schools. But I'll offer the amendment, and respectfully, colleague, you can vote it down.
So let's see where we go.
In discussion,
Yeah, yes.
I just wanted to offer Captain Obvious here that it also limits parent choice for the 3-year period. And so wanting to keep it open for parents to be able, charters are existed so that parents can have increased amounts of choice. And so it runs counter to that.
Move based on the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, testimony given at the operator run schools, work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.k of the policy, providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board modify the CEO's recommendation to remove the conditions and instead renew the school for a term of 3 years to commence on July 1, 2025 and run through June 30, 2028.
Based on the motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second, Mohammed.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed. All in favor, Commissioner Ames Messenger.
No.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy.
Abstain.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger. Excuse me.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Yes, and I'm also in favor. That motion passes with 1, 2, 3, 7 in favor, 1 absent, 1 abstention, and 1 no. Next school.
Next recommendation is for the Bel Air Edison School. This school is operated by AFIA Baltimore and serves students in grades pre-K through 8. They have an enrollment of 910 students. The Bel Air Edison School converted to a charter school in 2016 as the Brims Lane Elementary School was one of the lowest performing schools in the district for several years. The operator soon after merged the elementary school with its middle school program, which was called the AFIA Public Charter School. This school has had 1 prior 3-year renewal with conditions. The recommendation this evening is a 3-year renewal with conditions to improve academic achievement and outcomes for students, raise achievement of lower performing groups, strengthening the school's approach to data as noted in the application and the school's school effectiveness review. Their ratings were developing in the areas of student achievement and climate and effective in the area of finance and governance. Their highlights include a developing rating in the area of MCAP absolute performance for ELA 3 to 5, Math 3 to 5, and ELA 6 to 8. This is indicating that students are developing learners in the subject and have partial proficiency. They were rated not effective in Math 6 to 8, with an indication that students are beginning learners and need substantial academic support to be prepared for the next grade level. They were effective in 3 of the 4 school effectiveness review measures, specifically talented people, vision and engagement, and strategic leadership and professional management, as well as in 8 of the 12 key actions. This means that effective school practices or systems have been adopted at the school and are being implemented at a level that is improving the school's effectiveness. They are rated effective in their suspensions. The school has decreased suspensions and has been focused on intentional strategies to support both students and staff. From school year 22-23 to school year 23-24, the school has decreased its suspension rates. For middle grades, the school's most recent suspensions rate is 12.7 points lower than the district's average. The previous conditions in their current renewal was that the school was to improve in student achievement on their MCAP assessments. The school did raise their overall MCAP proficiency for students in ELA 3 to 5 from 8.1% in 2019, at which time the MCAP assessment was referred to as PARC, to 18.7% in 2022. Similarly, in math 3 to 5, the school's proficiency also improved in 2022 from the 5.4% proficiency, which was reflected in 2019 on the PARC assessment, to 7.6%. However, we noted that there have been mixed results since that time period, and that the school's most recent results are above the median of similar schools.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law and based on the consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with AFIA Baltimore Inc. to operate the Bel Air Edison School be renewed for 3 years with conditions that the operator put a plan in place subject to CEO approval that must be submitted this year that results in improved academic achievement and outcomes for students, where student performance must be better than the poverty comparison group and a subsequent renewal, raised achievement of lower performing groups, and strengthens the school's approach to data as noted in the application and school effectiveness review, and for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Any question for staff? Let me raise a question that I have for you. So based upon the recommendation of the plan that you guys are looking for from the school, can you explain to the board and the public what may happen if you don't see the results that you're looking to see?
Yeah, if the school does not fulfill the obligations of the conditions, they could be subject to an earlier revocation of the contract or earlier end of the contract.
Thank you.
And that's true for any school with conditions.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions this evening? Based upon that, I'll open the floor for discussion on the recommendation.
I move based upon the consideration that the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given by the operators run school and work sessions and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and the administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including sections 3.K of a policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 or more consecutive partial renewals, that the board accept the CEO recommendation as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor? Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm also in favor. That motion passes.
Connections, a community-based art school, number 325, operated by Baltimore Teacher Network, grade configuration 6th through 12th grade, current enrollment 457. Connections opened in 2002. The school has had multiple partial renewals and is currently in a 3-year conditional renewal. Connections rated developing in student achievement, developing in climate, effective in finance and governance. The recommendation is for a 3-year renewal with conditions to improve academic achievement and outcomes for students with a particular focus on math, raise achievement of lower performing groups, maintain trajectory of improvement in graduation rate, and improve the college and career readiness participation and achievement as defined in the renewal rubric. They rated effective in MCAP absolute performance for ELA 10 MCAP Where the average student is performing at a level 2 developing learner, they rated developing and MCAP absolute performance for ELA 6 through 8. Where the average learner again is performing at a level 2 developing learner, they rated not effective in MCAP absolute performance for math 6 through 8 and algebra 1, where the average learner is performing at a level 1 beginning learner. They rated effective in 3 of the 4 school effectiveness review measures, Young People and Vision Engagement, and Strategic Leadership and Professional Management, as well as in 8 of the 12 key actions. This means effective school practices or systems have been adopted at the school and are being implemented at a level that is improving the school's effectiveness. Previous conditions. The conditions require that the school improve in student achievement on the MCAP assessments in its 4-year cohort graduation rate. The school did raise overall MCAP proficiency for students in ELA 6 through 8 from 6.5% in 2019 on PARCC to 11.2% on MCAP in 2022, increasing in each year. For ELA 10, they increased proficiency from 5.4% in 2019 on PARCC to 11.7% on MCAP in 2022, increasing in each year. In math, the school had not made significant improvement. The 4-year cohort graduation rate did increase from 60% in 2019 to 71.7% in 2023. For 3 of the 4 years, the cohort graduation rate has been above 70%, except in 2022, where it fell to 52.6%, and the 2023 rebound is a 19.1 point improvement.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is a recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Baltimore Teacher Network, Inc. to operate Connections, a community-based art school, be renewed for 3 years with conditions that the operator put in place a plan subject to CEO approval this year that results in improved academic achievement and outcomes for students with a particular focus on math, and where student performance must be better than the poverty comparison group in a subsequent renewal, raise the achievement of the lower performing groups, maintain a trajectory of improvement in graduation rate, and improve the school's college and career readiness participation and achievement as defined in the renewal rubric, and for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening? None? I'll now open the floor for commissioners for discussion on the recommendation. Motion?
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendation and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.k of the policy providing that the board may decide that the public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accepts the CEO's recommendation as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor? Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and I'm also in favor. That motion passes. We're going to do this one next school. After this school, we are going to take a brief recess.
Okay. No problem. For the next recommendation, we're going to take a look at Frederick Elementary School. This school is operated by the Baltimore Curriculum Project and serves students in grades pre-K through 5. They have an enrollment of 323 students. This is a school that was converted to charter status in 2017 and was merged with the Samuel F.B. Morse Elementary School, which was a merger that was pre-planned as a part of the 21st Century Schools Buildings Plan. Both schools were the lowest performing schools in the district. The school is currently in a 3-year renewal, which was the maximum that was available due to the impact of COVID, and this year is its second renewal process. Frederick Elementary is being recommended for a 3-year renewal with conditions. The conditions are to improve academic achievement and outcomes for students, to raise achievement of the lower performing groups, and to strengthen the school's approach to data as noted in their application and the school effectiveness review. Their ratings for this process include a developing rating in the student achievement area and the effective ratings in the areas of climate and finance and governance. Their highlights include the following: developing rating in their MCAP absolute performance measure for ELA 3 to 5, where the average learner is performing at a level 2, which is the developing learner level, indicative of partial proficiency. They were not effective in MCAP absolute performance for Math 3 to 5, where the average learner is performing at a level 1, which is the beginning learner level, indicating that students will need additional academic support to be successful in the next grade. They were also not effective in ELA 4 to 5 for MCAP growth. They were in the 26th percentile in the district, and for ELA 4 to 5, they were in the 5th percentile. Again, growth is the measure that indicates the extent to which a school has improved individual student performance year to year. They were effective in 3 of the 4 school effectiveness review measures, specifically talented people, vision and engagement, and strategic leadership and professional management. And they were also effective in 8 of the 12 key actions. This means that effective school practices or systems have been adopted and are being implemented at a level that is improving the school's effectiveness. They were rated effective in the effective programming for students with disabilities measure, which looks at the extent to which the school has demonstrated a strong trajectory of growth and is aware of its data and its responsibilities to students with disabilities, and that they have effectively and consistently implemented the processes, interventions, and strategies to support student outcomes over the course of the contract. This school had few free and public education or FAPE findings in their compliance review, and the school leverages additional resources to ensure that they maintain a higher level of staffing than is required to serve students with disabilities. They were highly effective in suspensions, as the school has decreased their suspensions over time, and the suspension rates are below the district averages across student populations. The school employs a range of strategies to communicate with students about behavior, guiding them to make positive choices and to resolve conflicts. Their goal is to foster a positive and supportive environment where students can learn and grow while addressing and correcting behaviors that otherwise may be disruptive or harmful.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is the recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Baltimore Curriculum Project, Inc. to operate Frederick Elementary School be renewed for 3 years with conditions that the operator put a plan in place subject to CEO approval that must be submitted this year that results in improved academic achievement and outcomes for students where performance must be better than the poverty comparison group in the subsequent renewal, raised achievement of the lower performing groups, strengthening the school's approach to data as noted in the application and school effectiveness review for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have any questions for staff this evening?
Yes, I just have a real quick question. It seems, that they're doing a good job, but the thing is, it seems kind of fragmented. Did you notice that in your observation of this school?
I mean, this school, this is why I understand that history is important. They took on 2 of our lowest performing schools. And so that turnaround takes time. And so we see areas like of improvement, but there's still areas of work to do. It's also located in one of our highest poverty parts of the city. And that's important. I think throughout the community has heard us reference if they're schools are performing better than their poverty group. That's important because there's a relationship between the relative wealth of student populations and performance of state assessments. So in this process, we seek to compare you to similar schools to see what it is that your school is doing to control for poverty. So we're not measuring how poor the students or families are, but the actual work of the schools. But, it's work that takes time. And, they're still early kind of in this contract.
I thought that was something that you needed to bring to clarity. Yeah, thank you.
Any additional comments? I will now open the floor for commissioners for discussion on the recommendation and entertain a motion.
Am I moving for a recess or what? No, what
We
are
are
we
going to vote on the
voting?
school before we.
Yes.
We will be doing recess as soon as we are done with the school.
I can do it. Oh, go for it. All you, sir.
I move that based on the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJRA, including section 3.k of the policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for two consecutive partial renewals, that the board accept the CEO's recommendations as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All in favor? Vice Chair Parker?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner, and welcome. Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redding Lollinger?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Rooks?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Thank you, and I'm also in favor. This motion passes. We are going to adjourn for a 10-minute recess. We will pick back up at 7:55, 10 minutes now from whatever your watch says, 8:05 on my watch. See you in 10 minutes.
All right, everyone, we're getting ready to call back to order. Thank you all. Turn. I'm sorry to make sure that everyone heard me. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Alvarez.
Okay, we're going to continue.
All right, Green School of Baltimore, number 32, operator Experiential Environmental Education, Inc., grade configuration K through 5th grade, current enrollment 162. The Green School of Baltimore opened in 2006. The school has had multiple partial and full renewals and is currently in a 3-year renewal. The Green School rated effective in student achievement, effective in climate, developing inclusive additional financial review and financing governance. The recommendation is for a 3-year renewal with conditions to improve financial capacity through expansion or otherwise identify a sustainable recurring funding source that results in the ability of the organization and the school to fulfill all of its fiscal responsibilities with sufficient reserve to meet unexpected emergencies or shortfalls. Qualify as meets expectations in review of the organization's audits and reviews of subsequent audits. Fulfill all COMAR and state requirements for staffing, and identify and secure a new facility or develop a comprehensive space plan to address operational needs that is approved by the CEO. Green School rated effective in MCAP absolute performance for ELA 3 through 5, where the average student is performing at a level 3 proficient learner. Developing an MCAP absolute performance for math 3 through 5, where the average student is performing at level 2 developing learner. Effective in the the 5 essential survey, indicating the school is organized for success. Schools organized for success are 10 times more likely than less organized schools to improve student outcomes across indicators. Developing an effective programming for all student, racial, ethnic groups, which is for schools with diverse populations, and it looks at whether there are achievement gaps that exist between student groups, whether the school is providing high-quality programming for all students, and the processes and practices the school is using to address gaps and ensure high achievement for all students. The school rate does not meet expectations in audit, content, and internal controls, where the review found the school has had significant financial challenges that impact the future sustainability of the school, including operating losses in fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22, where the expenses outpace the revenue. While fiscal year 23 looked more positive, this was due to non-recurring revenue sources. A review of the operator's finances showed cash balances decreasing while expenses are expected to increase.
In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is a recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Experiential Environmental Education, Inc. to operate the Green School of Baltimore be renewed for 3 years with conditions that the operator put an initial plan in place subject to CEO approval that must be submitted this year and updated annually or is requested by the CEO to improve financial capacity through expansion or otherwise identify a sustainable recurring funding source that results in the ability of the organization and school to fulfill all of its fiscal responsibilities with sufficient reserve to meet unexpected emergencies or shortfalls, qualify as meet expectations in review of the organization's audits and reviews of subsequent audits, fulfill all COMAR and state requirements for staffing, and identify and secure a new facility or develop a comprehensive space plan to address operational needs for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do we have any commissioners have any questions for the staff?
Thank you for all of the updates and the information you've provided. I'm curious though, when you talk about revenues to support the increasing cost, are the increasing costs related? What are the increasing costs that you're identifying, and what suggests that those revenues wouldn't be sufficient? And my second question, do you want me to wait or ask them both? Okay. In your experience, you've stated an expectation that the school needs to find a building, raise funds, and come up with a solid growth plan. In your experience, is 3 years sufficient time to do that? Or would 5 years allow more time to be able to find adequate space and meet requirements?
That's a great question. So the the conditions, there are some ors in there, so it's not like a fixed thing. It does take time to expand if that is what the school's going to do. So they need to either expand or identify a recurring funding source to ensure that they're sustainable. The costs that are rising are salary costs. The majority of a school's expenses, or any organization's expenses, but a school's expenses, is staff. So, last year, the union contract resulted in increases. This year, there are increases. There's additional things that schools have to pay for that they did not have to pay for before, like cost for overnight field trips, or like there's just a lot of additional costs to schools. And this is a very small schools, under 200 kids. And so just like earlier tonight with the traditional schools and with Edgewood, and as we've been doing for the last 12 years, we've been merging and closing schools that are undersized. And so this is a school that has 168 students. It's significantly below. We've been saying if you're under 300, it's going to become challenging to be able to meet costs. This school is starting to experience that. And so the reserves they have, one of the things that we did with this school, because there was concerns that came up in the finances, and I think Marianne Cox, our deputy CFO, is also online. So I'm going to invite her to come on in a second to also add to this. And I lost my train of thought in saying that. But it's not a sustainable size. And so there has to be, the thing that has saved them from being in a worse situation was ESSER, which is gone. And they got some of the PPP loans, like the COVID relief, basically, is the only thing that has really helped them have money. Otherwise, they would have been more upside down. Does not meet expectations is the lowest rating you can get in this measure. But this is a school that is it has strong academics, it's a strong climate. And so these conditions are designed to really help the school. So we would meet with them, we would, support them. And part of what they're going to, put forward is a plan to figure that out. I know some schools, some of their fundraising is starting to return now that we're out of COVID. So directly after COVID, a lot of schools experienced some challenges with fundraising. And so you have an operator here that wants to be around, has been around. And so I think these are the appropriate conditions. I think if you, from a CEO administrative perspective, the fiscal situation is challenging, that you wouldn't want to leave it without a review sooner. Marianne, I don't know if there's more that you want to add. Okay. Okay. Yep. Come on up. Okay.
It's on now. Okay, greetings, everyone. I just wanted to add a few additional comments about the Green School. What we found when we reviewed them in detail was that they had been recording their costs as they were allowed to. There's nothing inappropriate about it, but they had an opportunity to take care of the COVID funds. So they charged some costs, their operating costs, to the COVID funds. COVID funds ended on 9/30/2024. They are also charging some positions to the TSI grant. The TSI grant will end at the end of 2026. And there's also a question about the concentration of poverty grant, that they are receiving funds now, whereas in prior years, they would not have met the criteria. And so City Schools does not consider that a reliable source of funding because it relates to the interpretation of what a high poverty school is. Is that correct, Angela?
And Green School is not they're a low poverty school in our district.
Based upon what you just shared on those funding revenue streams, that this is my interpretation. Help me understand if I'm making sense of this appropriately. So the funding streams may not be as stable for the school as what you'd like them to be.
Okay, in addition to that, it's my understanding that there were some one-time exceptions made for meeting COMAR requirements for FY 2024. Is that the year 2023 or 24? But it was a one-time exception, and that will not continue. So when you take away the financial impact of the exception and add the fact that the COVID grants are ending, the TSI grant will end, and the concentration of poverty is not considered a reliable grant, then that's why she was referring to a stable replacement source of funding, just to allow them to maintain COMAR requirements.
Commissioner Slater. Okay. So based upon that and the condition that's warranted associated with that, I guess my question is the type of review that the district would undertake to ensure that they're building a sustainable budget over the course of that entire 3 years.
Yes, we intend to do a more intense, detailed review on a continuing basis.
What guidance do you have for the amount of reserve that an organization that has about this size school, so an organization with this level of operating budget, what kind of a reserve should they have?
Actually, when we do the evaluation for audit, there's many different criteria. Most of them are all about cash. Applications of cash. What does it do to your net assets? Do you have positive net assets? What do your auditors think? We can tell by looking at your audited financial statements if the auditors have a going concern or a liquidity question. So we're looking at all that. We do not tell them, you must have this. What we do know is that we have certain criteria that we like to see, which is how many days of your operating expenses do you have? Well, we're all keeping in mind the fact that the charter schools don't pay for their staffing for the people who are employees of city schools, which is the teachers and a lot of their central staff. So that's not a cash outflow for them. They generally, when we look at the cash on hand, those are the costs that they pay out of their quarterly cash outs. So because over 3/4 of their costs are not reflected in their their needs, it makes it more of a subjective decision, because I know what their cash balance is, and that's not enough to cause the concern. What our concern was the fact that we know the grants either have ended or are ending. or are unreliable? And what are you going to do when all those costs come back? It's going to be very difficult to maintain an excess of revenue over expenditures, which is one of the criteria we look for.
Yeah, and they were upside down. I mean, the other thing I will say about their cash on hand is they're using it. It's going down. So we've collected their bank statements from, we started the review for each month. It's going down. They're using that. And so there's not an identified source to replace it. If we did not do the exceptions, their cash out amount this year would have been very minimal.
So
And that could give us concern because they have operational costs, like their building, their utilities, that kind of stuff.
my understanding is that they've reported an increasing, a more positive cash position than in recent years, that it's been steadily increasing.
It's not. It's their cash position is decreasing.
It certainly has decreased. Remember how we typically look at these things at year end. And what we had done when in areas where we need to take a closer look, we look at the last fiscal year for which they have information available. In this case, it would be 6/30/2024. And then we went month by month after that. And what we saw was that the cash was going down from that point, from 6/30/2024, according to the bank statements, for the months that they gave us, which I think the last month we looked at was October. So
On a month by month basis.
that's what we ended up doing when we start looking at the details. And that's kind of scrutiny we would be applying for the future.
The information I was given was on a year-to-year basis. That seemed to indicate that.
Now, 21 and 22, they had more expenses than they had revenue. They look better in 23 because of all of those forgiveness, right? So it's an accounting thing. I'm accounting for things in a different place. But my true position, which is why we wanted to look at, well, what do you actually have now?
Yeah.
It's going down. They're having to use that to cover expenses.
Level of confidence do you believe that they'd be able to come up with a budget sustainable year?
That's our hope. I mean, I think we have a good operator here, like I said, who is committed to being around. Their board wants to make these commitments. It's a risk. And to be honest and very clear in public, proposing that we continue them is a risk. We think it's worth the risk because of what they're doing for students, how long they've been around, and what we know about the team that's running the school. But that's why the CEO's recommendation is for a 3-year period so that we can kind of check on that. And it's going to require more checking given the level of concern.
I'll just give a comment that we have some belief there that we have a good operator and they are performing. And when you have that, that's a combination of success. So I appreciate the risk and I'm open to a high level of commitment.
Any other comment or question?
With that, I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, testimony given at the operator run schools, work session, and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJRA, including 3K of the policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board reject the CEO's recommendation and modify it to renew the school for a term of 5 years, to commence on July the 1st, 2025, and run through June 30th, 2030.
Does anyone second?
Sorry. Second, Kenyatta Bay.
All right. So we'll do the roll call on that. Chair Scully?
A quick question,
Oh,
clarification
okay.
before.
Sure.
So the recommended modification relation, but not to change any of the conditions.
This is correct.
That's what I was, that's what I was gonna ask before you, to make sure. Okay.
And maybe one just sort of reflection of noting that it is, I've not seen, and perhaps you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe I've seen a 5-year renewal with conditions previously. Sorry, 8-year with conditions.
We have an 8-year with conditions this year.
Yep.
Just for record, but Angela, if you wanted to add to it.
Yeah.
The midterm review.
Yeah, we have schools with longer terms in the past, like 8 years, that have had like a midpoint review, but not with like a list of conditions. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
like
I
a
guess
one.
This feels different than,
Yeah.
like, notably different.
Yes.
And I will just note, you know, again, for the board, if I can, I don't know where we are in the process, that this is point of information only, that if we do prior to 5 years, if the board votes for the 5 years and prior to 5 years, there is an operating deficit, which we have had before, by the way. And the school cannot maintain its finances. We will have to come back to the board if that school cannot sustain. And in the past, that has actually led to closure at that time because of financial rights. So I just want to put that out, that even though there is a 5-year, if a school cannot afford to run, the 5-year will be immaterial to them being able to actually operate. So I just want to make sure that the board understands that.
All right, thank you. Chair Sally?
No. No.
Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Give me a second.
Yes, Kenyatta Bay.
Yes. So I will restate my vote is no.
Uh, all right, yes. Commissioner Ames Messenger?
No.
Commissioner Coy?
No.
Commissioner Esposito?
Abstain.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay? Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Commissioner Retton Lallinger?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks? Brooks, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington? Okay, and then it's myself, I vote no. So that is 4 yes, 5 no's, and 1 abstention. Is that
Okay,
correct?
so that's.
So it does not pass. We need to
Entertain a second.
entertain a second motion.
I would like to move that based on the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in the policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJRA, including the sections 3.k of the policy providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accept the CEO's recommendations as stated.
Anyone second?
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you. Are we roll call or asking for discussion? Okay, so we'll go into a roll call. Chair Sally?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Ames Messenger?
Yes.
Commissioner Coy?
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito?
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay?
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed?
Yes.
Commissioner Retton Lallinger?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington? And myself votes yes. The motion passes.
The next school is New Song Academy, operated by the New Song Community Learning Center, Inc. They're an elementary school. No, they're an elementary middle school. That's incorrect. Their enrollment is 322 students. They originally were a new school initiative school. This is their first renewal as a charter school. This school is rated developing in student achievement, school climate, and in financial management and governance, inclusive of an additional financial review. The recommendation is 3 years with conditions. The school is rated highly effective in each of its MCAP growth measures for ELA and math at the middle school level, where the school is in the 95th and 81st percentiles respectively. They're effective in MCAP absolute performance for ELA for middle grades, where the average student performance is level 2, indicating partial proficiency, but where the percent of students that reach proficiency is 25.5 percentage points higher than the median for schools with similar poverty. In math, in middle school math, their performance is developing, and where their growth is 7.9 percentage points higher than the median for schools with similar poverty. They're developing an MCAP absolute performance. They're effective in the school effectiveness review measures for vision and engagement and strategic leadership, which means the school's practices or systems have been adopted at the school and are being implemented at a level that is improving school effectiveness. Does not meet expectations in the audit content internal controls, where the review found the school has had significant financial challenges that impact the future sustainability of the school, including several years where expenditures exceeded revenue. In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on the consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is a recommendation of the CEO that the contract with New Song Learning Community, Inc. to operate New Song Academy be renewed for 3 years, with conditions that the operator put an initial plan in place subject to CEO approval that must be submitted this year and updated annually or as requested by the CEO to improve the financial capacity through expansion or otherwise identify a sustainable recurring funding source that results in the ability of the organization and school to fulfill all of its fiscal responsibilities with sufficient reserve to meet unexpected emergencies or shortfalls. Qualify as meet expectations in review of the organization's audits and reviews of subsequent audits, fulfill all COMAR state requirements for staffing, and identify and secure a new facility or develop a comprehensive space plan to address operational needs for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have questions for the staff? All right, I'll open the floor to the commissioners for discussion of the recommendation.
I would like to put out on the floor that I think that after visiting New Song, I think they have a particularly strong culture. They mean a lot to the community that they're in, and I think they are worthy of renewal. I would like to see a more targeted approach to teacher development and capacity building. And so pending further discussion, I'd like to add an amendment to add a condition to the renewal.
Anyone else? Any discussion?
Similarly, I support that, that recommendation in terms of ensuring that the school continues to make progress in those areas that were identified by my colleague on the board.
One other thing I'd like to say for the record is I think there are some physical constraints to the growth of the school, and given that the finances are a concern, I think we need to, as a board and a community, think about ways in which we can support the other avenues avenues to financial sustainability for the school. So just something for us to consider. But with that, I move that based on the consideration.
We have a motion on the floor already.
No more.
I thought it was.
No, we're in discussion.
I'm sorry.
I'll leave it open. Does someone else have a item for discussion?
Oh, I just wanted to add that the school is being asked to expand and grow. Yet the facility that is available to them is not being provided. So I think that also, in my mind, needs to be considered in that request, in that stipulation.
I do think that the condition as written provides for that, provides for the or clause, in my mind, provides for some flexibility in how they achieve financial sustainability.
Commissioner Hollinger, before you do your, I move, there's just an error on that page. So can you read it from page 42?
Yeah.
And then you can go back for
Sure.
the other parts.
Just the introduction.
Just the introduction.
I move that based on the consideration of the recommendations and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.k of the policy, providing that the board may decide that a public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board modify the CEO's recommendation to add the following condition to the conditions already shared on behalf of the CEO to develop a comprehensive plan by May 1, 2025 to improve the capacity and effectiveness of teachers and academic leaders that include specific and detailed approaches to professional development and coaching.
For our roll call.
I think we need a second.
Oh, yeah.
A second.
Messenger
One
second.
that- Amend that motion, thank you. Commissioner Ames Messenger. So we'll go into our roll call. Chair Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad,
Yes.
Commissioner Redding Lallinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
and my vote is yes as well. That motion passes.
Creative City Public Charter School is operated by Creative City Public Charter School Foundation. They're an elementary school. They serve around 210 students. They first opened in 2013. They've had multiple partial renewals and is currently in a 3-year with conditions. The school is rated developing in student achievement, school climate, and finance and governance. The recommendation for this school has been updated and revised by the CEO to be a 3-year renewal with conditions. The school is rated not effective in ELA 4.5 and NCAP growth, where they're at the 47th percentile, and in math, where they're at the 26th percentile. They're developing an MCAP absolute performance for elementary and math, for English language arts and math for elementary students, indicating students had partial proficiency. They were rated developing in the 5 essentials, indicating the school is moderately organized for success. A school that is moderately organized for on the 5 essentials means that the school is performing at an average level in terms of overall organizational structure and systems, falling within the middle range. Oh no, my computer is about to die. Somebody can you start sharing and kick me out of sharing? Okay. With the middle range compared to other schools, indicating that while there are functional systems in place, there's room for improvement in key areas. They were not effective in programming for students with disabilities, which looks at the extent to which schools are aware of and have a trajectory of growth for students with disabilities, that they're aware of their responsibilities, for students with disabilities, and that they have effectively and consistently implemented processes, interventions, and strategies to support student outcomes. The Special Education Compliance Review found issues that impact the delivery of services were good to students for almost every field of review, which required free and public education or FAPE evaluations. In the previous conditions, the school was required to improve student achievement on the MCAP and provide evidence of improved data processes aligned to best practice. The school did raise MCAP proficiency in ELA 3 to 5 from 10.1% in 2019 on PARC to 20% on MCAP in 2022. Similarly, in math, the school's proficiency improved from 6.9% in 2019 to 8.44% on the MCAP. However, the results have been mixed since then. In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on the consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, and the contents of the official record, it is the revised recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Creative City Public Charter School Foundation, Inc. to operate Creative City Public Charter School be renewed for 3 years with conditions that the operator put a plan in place subject to CEO approval that must be submitted this year that results in improved academic achievement and outcomes for students, where student performance must be better than the poverty comparison group in the subsequent renewal, raise achievement of the lower performing groups, strengthening the school's approach to data and instruction as noted in the application and the school effectiveness review, and for a term that commences on July 1, 2025 and ends on June 30, 2028.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioners have questions for staff?
Also, I have a comment. When we see a school community that reflects what's going on in the community, and this renewal period gave us the opportunity to see that where these gaps are in the school, that you guys have a plan to be able to address them and have the partners to address them, and the high level commitment of your partners, along with hearing from your school community, has been very helpful during this process. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you have done during this renewal process, because it has been helpful to understand that you have a pathway to success, and then you have the partners to support you in that. So I want to say thank you for your work, and I personally look forward to the future success of Creative City.
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, you've probably heard me say this before, that as a community grows or it becomes more involved, that schools grow. I've watched this development, and a lot of the community has poured into Creative City. They have done yeoman's work. We should not be afraid that the community now is doing what we've been asking for a very long time, to be dedicated to the improvement and the growth of an institution. And I think that I'm looking forward, once again, to seeing this growth, this continued growth. This has been a stressed area where creative cities exist. And all of a sudden now it's beginning to rally. I'm really a big supporter of watching that rally continue. I think that you have a good plan in place, and the more brains you bring to the table, the more minds you bring to the table, the more community you bring to the table, you will become a stellar institution. I support your continuation.
And I'm just going to go back because I just want to highlight something to you that is, I haven't seen many schools have the ability to have both sides of our city as a partner. This is a school that's been able to bring Coppin and Morgan. And for me, that's saying something. So appreciate it.
Yes.
I also wanted to just address the members of the board at Creative City for the effort that you've shown over the last couple of months, just in showing up and walking in the perspective that you shared on your work there. In that spirit, really realizing the lift that you also have ahead of you and making sure that you are equipped to be successful in that and that we are not back here again in 3 years. And so looking to make sure when you talk about these ample partners that you are well supported, specifically when it comes to finances and thinking about what your vision looks like when you talk about arts integration in this community and the vision that you have for what that can mean and meeting the needs of diverse learners and learners with special education needs, and just making sure that we are able to do that in a meaningful way and that you have the financial resources and board resources to support that effort.
I'd like to second those comments and will say that I was also greeted by members of the board for my visit, all of whom I believe were parents of the school, which I think demonstrates a real investment in the school, and that there are certainly a lot of components of strong culture and buy-in from the Greater Park Heights community. I would like to add a similar amendment to the one that I previously added, which is I do believe the school would benefit from a comprehensive and specific plan to improve teacher effectiveness and capacity. And so I don't know if other colleagues will be offering any amendments, but I just request that if you are, that you add that amendment to your proposal.
All right. Any other questions before we go into discussion? Okay, so I'll open the floor for 2 commissioners for discussion.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendation and
We
rationale
have
of the
a
CEO.
motion to add to it as, or right,
He's going to read.
Okay.
I think he has to read.
okay, right. Do you have
Yes.
the amendment language for both of them?
So let's.
So I'm
say
looking
one-
at B and then also the language that Stefan.
So just for my board colleagues, so we can add any additional ones that we want. We can have multiple ones that may be helpful for us to consider.
All at the same time, or can we do them
We
separately?
should go through, yeah, let's do one larger one. So if we do one motion that contains all of the ones that you want, even if you want to read them, you can say it's one, and then here's the second one, here's the third one. That will inform what the vote will be on that first one.
I move that based upon the consideration, the recommendation, and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.K of the policy providing that the board may decide that the public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board modifies the CEO recommendation in the following manner: to require the operator procures the financial expertise necessary to ensure strong financial management, inclusive of fundraising through training, selection to the board, and or selection of a contractor subject to the CEO review, and or develop a comprehensive plan by May 1, 2025 to improve the capacity and effectiveness of teachers and academic leaders that include specific and detailed approaches to professional development and coaching.
One quick clarification, that was both of those. It was not a and or between those 2 items, correct?
Correct.
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
All right, thank you. Chair Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Redden Ballinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
and myself, I vote yes. Motion passes.
I'm thinking like I'm. Okay, so next is Southwest Baltimore Charter School. This is operated by Southwest Baltimore Charter School, Inc. It's an elementary middle school, enrollment around 365 students. It first opened as a charter school in 2005. The school's had a mixed history of renewals, currently in a 3-year renewal term. The school is rated not effective in student achievement, developing in climate, and effective in finance and governance. The CEO's recommendation has been revised to non-renew the operator, but to keep the school open and change management to a traditional school starting in 25-26 school year. The school is rated not effective in in-cap growth for math, where they're in the 26th percentile, for elementary math, for elementary English language arts, where they're in the 27th percentile, and for middle grades English language arts, where they're in the 23rd percentile. They're not effective in the 5 essentials survey. The school is not yet organized for success. The school is weak in 4 of the 5 essentials: effective leaders, collaborative teachers, supportive environment, and involved families. Research shows that a low score in even just 1 of the 5 essentials reduces the likelihood of improvement to less than 10%. They're not effective in chronic absence. The school is not aware of its data. For example, the school claimed that its chronic absence rates are below the district averages when they are above the district averages by 5.3 percentage points for students in elementary grades and 4.1 percentage points higher for students in middle grades. In accordance with policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA and applicable law, and based on the consideration of the operator renewal report, testimony at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, and the content of the official record, it is the revised recommendation of the CEO that the contract with Southwest Baltimore Charter School, Inc. to operate Southwest Baltimore Charter School be non-renewed, and that the school transitions to become a traditional school starting in the 25-26 school year.
I concur with the recommendation as stated.
Do any commissioner have questions for staff?
Yes. But the school was rated not effective in 3 out of 4 MCAP measures. How did they do in the 4th one? And can you, the gradations between not effective and developing, I know there's a lot of different things that go into the rubric, but can you sort of voice over the difference between not effective and developing specifically for academics?
For academics, if a school is below the median for their comparison poverty group in absolute performance, that's a not effective. If they are in the lower half of percentile rankings for growth, that would be considered a not effective. If the schools for the 5 essentials, they were kind of weak, so that's also considered in the academic section because it's predictive of improvement. So those are the hard data measures that are part of the academic section. The academic section also considers the fidelity charter, whether school is delivering on their charter, and whether they have how they manage handling concerns in their data. Are they responsive data? Are they actually working towards providing high quality programming for students.
So this is the only school we've considered today with the not effective rating in academics.
Yeah, this is the only school that in this renewal process has a not effective in the academic section of renewal.
And the last question is about governance. If you could shed some light on the findings on the governance section for this operator.
Yep, just to go back to your question about the other rating in the academic section, so Tiffany just verified for us they were developing and the other academic rating.
For
Repeat the last question, sorry.
a governance standpoint, what were some of the findings? Can you shed some light on the operator and its governance capacity?
Yeah, in operator capacity, what was their rating? All right, long night, lots of stuff in my head. Go to the rating sheet where you were before. Thank you. This is what I needed. I should have brought this down with me. In operator capacity, they were found to be developing. So operator capacity is where we're looking at the extent to which the schools operated effectively, has consistently met all state, federal reporting requirements, critical district requirements, whether we've issued notices of concern or reprimand to the school.
Thanks. No further questions.
One question, and it's simply if we're looking at transition into a traditional school, what type of impact or resources are going to change for that community that's directly affected by that school?
I mean, that's a good question. It's hard to say now, like not having built the budget. This process is ahead of the budget season. So if the board approves that, part of that finalization of the budget would include input from community. Some of that has started, but that continues once the budgets go live in February. So that engagement would continue. One of the things we've heard from the community and engagement in the community is this importance around maintaining expeditionary or project-based learning as a value within the school community. And so that's something we would seek to maintain. We have another traditional school, Fort Worthington, that has that model that's part within it. The staff, the majority of staff within charter schools are district staff. So we would be able to maintain the current staffing. But as a traditional school, they would get district supports that they don't have now. So they would sit within a CLN. So there would be support, academic support. They would have access to additional PD that's run by the district. They would be, the school leadership would be part of a network of schools and looking at their data under supervision of an ILED and really implementing, our traditional schools implement continuous improvement. So they would benefit from those pieces. But there could be differences. And so that's what the budget process would help us kind of figure out in terms of, what that means for the school. And there's differences in costs because this, for example, charter schools are responsible for the cost of their facilities, right? And so that's something they have to pay, rent for. Because it's our facility as a traditional school, that's considered in a different place. So there will be some differences, that pluses and ins and outs. So we would have to figure that out in the budget process.
Just one more before we entertain a motion. Ms. Alvarez, can you remind the board of the revised recommendation of the CEO? Just want to be super, super clear.
It's a non-renew the operator, but to keep the school open and change the management type so that it will become a traditional school starting in the 25-26 school year.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other question, comment? for comment? Okay, so I will open up the floor to the commissioners for any discussion of the recommendation.
So, board colleagues, so there's a couple of options that we can pursue with this particular school. So one is accepting the recommendation as proposed by the CEO for their non-renewal. Second is to modify that. Third is to reject and modify. I'm sorry. That third is to modify and renew the operator's contract for a term of 3 years. Or another option could be placed on the table by our board colleagues here this evening for consideration.
I guess I have a comment. Would like to just commend the really thoughtful advocacy of a wide cross-section of students, families, and parents. I've had the privilege to speak to a number of community members. I used to live in the community, working at a neighborhood school, and just the significance of loss and the complication of it to school closure is just of that is a challenging consideration. I do also just really want to lift up the consistency with the things that you acknowledge around your school community that make it unique. And when you're talking about expeditionary learning and or project-based learning, when you're looking about creativity, about creating a space for all students, kind of regardless of where they are coming, and a sense of belonging and identity in that, and really just that there didn't matter how many people you talk to, it was like hearing the same narrative over and over again. And I think just calling, moving forward through a lot of this process that those, and I think the last things of that is just the identity of Southwest Baltimore Public Charter as a hub in that community and its connection to the park. And I think in all of those things, looking at how those core elements of the identity and the history of the school can be preserved and carried forward as a source of stability and identity for the students that attend there and the families that are associated with that school community. So just I wanted to commend the consistency and voice that was present in those statements, and that I guess an encouragement to continue to advocate for those things that you know to be part of yourself in this next day and in the process of transforming in this next iteration of the school community there in Southwest.
I'll also just lift up the option in front of us that's being presented as the CEO's recommendation that provides a degree of stability and predictability for the school to continue and to serve in the community. There's obviously questions of the work ahead if this were to be approved to support academic achievement, and that is no small undertaking. But the sincere advocacy and the things that we heard from the school community that desire to have the school remain in the community. I just want to commend that and the sincerity of that advocacy was not lost on me, and I imagine my other commissioners as well, and the school district staff.
Can I just want to go back to your question about the academic performance. So Allison was helpful in giving the readings report. So the school was not, in terms of the assessment measures, that was your question. They were not effective in 5 of the 8 measures. They were developing in 2, and they were effective in 1, math, 68 SGP. So I just wanted to answer that fully on the record.
I guess just to raise this, I think it's an important point to make that a school could outperform other schools on star ratings, for instance, and yet still get a not effective on this rubric because of the ways in which schools are compared to other peer schools and the way in which SGP and growth is taken into account? Is that?
Yeah, so the state star rating system, it's a completely different way of looking at the data. And so within our review process, we are comparing schools with similar schools in terms of how we look at it. And so it's the rating system is not looking at the same thing. So for example, in the state rating, schools get credit for things like the having a variety of courses offered to students, for example, right? So we're not looking at exactly the same things in this process as is looked at in the report card process.
The challenging part where we need to place a more motion on the floor for consideration by the entire board.
I move that based upon the consideration of the recommendation and rationale of the CEO, the operator renewal report, the testimony given at the operator-run schools work session and public hearings, the contents of the official record, and the factors listed in policy IHBJ and administrative regulation IHBJ-RA, including section 3.K of the policy, providing that the board may decide that the public charter school is not eligible for 2 consecutive partial renewals, that the board accepts the CEO recommendations as stated.
91 second.
Second, Kenyatta Bay.
Okay. Roll call. Chair Sally,
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger,
Yes.
Commissioner Coy,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay,
Yes.
Commissioner Mohammed,
Yes.
Commissioner Redden Lallinger,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The motion carries. I will now turn the meeting back to Chair Sally.
So before we conclude tonight, I just want to thank our colleagues in the Office of New Initiatives for their work in preparing the board, as well as the work in terms of working with the entire Baltimore City school community. I'd like to thank my board colleagues for the amount of work and effort that has gone into the evening in terms of being able to review the recommendations to vote, as well as to make the really hard decisions that are really important to move our system forward. I also want to thank our entire Baltimore City community for your thoughtful input throughout the process and advocacy that we received this evening and throughout the season. Before we conclude as well this evening, we have a couple of reminders that we want to send out. That are housekeeping things that typically we would do at the top of the call. We want to start with our student board forum. Actually, I'd like to turn over to Commissioner Rooks just to lift up what our student board forum will be this month.
Thank you, Chair. The student board forum will be held at the Baltimore Design School, January 16th from 5 to 6:30. I encourage all students to attend this event. I will be hosting it alongside my commissioners as well. Please come out, enjoy. There will be a lot of fun. You get to talk with the commissioners such as myself, and that'll be our time to hear you and have a conversation on what your academic school achievements would like to be.
Thanks so much, Commissioners. In particular, the board will be addressing in the student board forum policies JJIC and JICJ. So If you have not done so already, we ask that students register for the event. We'd love to have you come out that evening. Let's see. So later this month, the district will be launching a new YouTube channel called City Schools Live, dedicated to sharing live and recorded district events such as board meetings, town halls, ribbon cuttings, external trainings, celebrations, and more. The original YouTube channel, City Schools TV, will continue to show storytelling pieces, emphasizing student content and daily work of the district. The district will inform everyone of the launch date for the second YouTube channel soon, and tonight's board meeting recording will be found on the original City Schools TV channel. We are going to forego committee reports this evening. We'll be back on the 28th to provide those. A notice of our upcoming meetings is our Operations Committee heading up on Tuesday, January 21st. Policy Committee meeting the same day in the afternoon at 4 p.m. Safety and Wholeness will convene on Thursday, January 23rd. And our regular board meeting, exec session, will be held on the 28th, and exec, and then followed by our full board meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. I'll take Commissioner Slater-Harrington and a second from Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned. We'll see you back in a few weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah. You're good.
Okay.